All right, we're back. This is John.
Hey, it's Paul.
It's Eric.
And this is What If Geeks. We are messing around with our audio equipment, so hopefully this comes out well. It looks a lot better already. So, a couple trial runs, and here we go.
Right now, you'll be able to hear Eric.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
We apologize for that.
It's probably better that way.
He had a lot of good stuff last week. I hope
did.
people could hear it.
Yeah.
I hope my mom and Tony could hear it.
Yeah. And his wife. All right. His harshest critic.
She definitely could hear it.
Cool. There you
She
go.
made some mention. She knew I talked about her.
I
heard that.
Yeah.
That's why.
See? That's why we're lucky.
It's good. My wife does not listen to it.
We want nothing to do with what the hell you guys are doing. All right. So, obviously, let's see. Today is April 30th. So, we have all officially seen Avengers Endgame. So, we're going to get into that. We'll roll right into that here in a few minutes. So, we'll just roll right into the rest of this shit. Florida Man. You want to do Florida Man first? Let's see. Paul, unfortunately, you were having some issues at home.
I think you have the Florida Man story because my life is in a shambles right now. Not that it. So for both of you who care about my life, my wife and I are having our floors redone. So we had all the carpets ripped up, we had all the tile taken out of our first floor, and it's a total nightmare. If you've ever had that done, it's loud. I work from home. It's super loud. It's dusty. There's like a level of dust over everything in our house. It's a complete pain in the ass. And because the workers, the guys that were in there, had the front door, the back door, and the door to the garage open the entire day yesterday and today when they were taking up carpet and tile, and today laying down floors, the air burned out trying to keep the house cool while they had all the doors open. So we have about 2/3 of the floor downstairs put in. So there's like the vinyl plank, whatever we bought, and then concrete in some rooms. Stuff is piled into one or two rooms, and then now the air doesn't work. So no air conditioning in Florida, by the way, officially sucks.
Yeah, we've had that happen a few times. There's a Paul texted me, he said, I'll be there shortly, my AC went out. I told him, go suck the drain pipe. So, there you go. Because that happens in this neighborhood a lot. Eric and I have the same model house, and we both had to do it.
Yeah, I've done it before, and that was the first thing I did.
That's how I got through college.
Started second.
And there you go. All right, so
yeah, So you have all the Florida Man stories. At least you have one for me. So.
Yeah, I've got one for you. I'll run through mine because I really briefly I read the headline of yours, and I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to give it to you because it looks good. So the one I got was where the hell to go? Staying in sync with what I said last week with people smuggling food. Man in Florida caught with full rack of ribs in his pants. This goes way back to December 15th, apparently, though, because I just clicked on whatever article I saw. So a Florida man caught red-handed with a full rack of ribs in an unlikely and pretty conspicuous location. According to the Martin County Sheriff's Office in Florida, some dude, can't say his name, sorry, 26, booked on petty theft because he was caught running out of a local grocery store with a rack of ribs in his pants.
Say, my man, is that a rack of ribs in your pants? You're happy to see me. Oh, man, that's a rack of ribs.
There's a theme here. Wasn't last week it was like a donuts in somebody's pants or something?
No, she smuggled like half a grocery store in her yoga pants. Yeah, that's why I picked this one, because we like to theme them, apparently. So, yeah, that was mine. Dude just kind of rolled out with a bunch of crap in his pants. So, there you go. Eric, go ahead.
Well, I'm going to hope this isn't a theme. So what I've got is a Florida man accused of attacking mom when she wouldn't dress his mannequin. So a 40-year-old South Florida man is accused of attacking his mother after she refused to dress his mannequin. He was arrested by Boynton Beach police, charged with aggravated battery on a victim over 65. So what happened was they were in the backyard, and he had a mannequin out there. I got no idea why. But he's trying to get his mom to dress it. She refuses. He blocks her path so she can't go inside. She ends up pushing his mannequin over and running in. This apparently irks him. So he picks up the mannequin. He runs inside after her. He goes in there. And I'm going to read this because it made me laugh, and probably it's a dark sense of humor, and I don't know if everybody will find this funny, but
everybody in the room will. So go ahead.
Yeah. So That says the victim told police, so the mother told police that the man hit her several times in the head with a wooden stool and then stuffed dumplings into her mouth. So, yeah, let's hope that's not a theme. I'm not going to be looking for those in the future.
I don't know. Florida Man seems to like revolve around food a lot. There's always something going on with some people. We had one. Paul did almost like he went for a hat trick with people getting pelted with food. It was amazing. Now, Paul, you have your article up?
So I got another one. I just randomly Googled Florida Man, and here's what I got: police : not about their colons. Police: drunk Florida man jailed after telling cops he's Jason Bourne. Some false names are more believable than others. Police say an intoxicated man ejected from a library for causing a disturbance identified himself to officers as Jason Bourne, the title character of a series of popular books and movies centered around a CIA assassin. Police were not fooled, and they later learned the man's actually Jonathan something 45 from St. Petersburg.
Nice.
So no, dude, you are not Jason Bourne.
No, not at all. All right, so since Paul had texted me briefly and was like, dude, send me a Florida Man story because he was doing his AC shit, and I was like, all right, it's cool. We're just kind of hanging out here. Tested the audio stuff, and now we're looking for Florida Man stories. He's like, find me one. So I said, okay, I got one. I sent him a link. I didn't even bother reading through the article. I just read this headline, because normally what I do is I go to Reddit, find Florida Man, and I just go to the link, and I see how good it is. Typically, it's the headline that catches my eye, and this one was just epic. Florida woman steals Florida man's phone, posts pictures of his genitals on social media accounts, changes his password so that he can't sign in to take them down, then demands money and gets arrested for extortion. And that's when I sent you that you decided to skip. I saw that headline, I was like, we've got to do this one. So I don't know what's going on with this one, but...
So some dude had pictures of his own junk on his own phone. And she stole his phone and like, I'm going to post your junk pictures somewhere.
Yeah, that's what it looks like. Yeah, I don't know if this is the right girl, but there's a picture of a girl on there. She's kind of cute.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Pardon me while I delete all the pictures of my junk on my phone.
I'll try to pop that open real quick. No pun intended. Yeah, all right. Brianna Dean, 24, faces a felony charge. Joe, that is her. I see why he might have let his guard down. There you go, Eric. Yeah. It didn't take much.
It never does.
Yeah, no. So, 24-year-old woman tried to extort a man by posting explicit photos of him to his own social media accounts, then asked for money to take him down. Yeah, you're not allowed to do that. Sorry. But, well, there it goes. So, that's Florida Man. I know we skipped over Paul's typical intro to that, where he says, he tries to explain what Florida Man is, and it's our resident superhero. But
the worst.
I think by now you guys have got it. But rolling from that, we can roll into what are you into? Yeah. Do you have anything for what are you into?
I do, actually. Starting with reading, something that Eric said last week, which has really got my gears spinning about. Eric's comment last week was, is there a movie that's better than the book? Yes,
and we decided we're going to do a whole episode on that at some point.
But what I started thinking was, a movie's really good, but I've never actually read the book, is the Lord of the Rings trilogy. I don't know that I've ever read those. I know I have never read those books, so I started reading Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, nice. All right, cool. There you go. So I guess we'll find out. I'm pretty sure the book is better.
I think it's a long, slow read, though. We'll find out in several months.
Right. Check back at the Christmas episode.
Paul, what are you into? The same shit. All right, so jeez, reading, basically the same stuff, rolling through comics and whatever else. But TV, Game of Thrones,
Yes.
Holy shit.
Yes.
Yeah, we already. Paul is trying to play catch up, so we'll just pretend he's not here for a minute. We are on episode 3 of the final season. We just rolled through it. Eric watched it the other night when it first came out. I watched it last night while he was watching Endgame. Somehow that made us sound like a gay couple. I don't know. You were over here doing that thing. I was over here. Whatever. All right. So I understand my kid a little bit better now. So, yeah, I watched the Game of Thrones last night, and the only warning Eric had given me was, well, you're going to strain your eyes a little bit, and, well, he wasn't lying. Yeah. Okay, what was your first impression?
Well, honestly, I was mad for about the first 30 minutes of that
Shut
episode.
your phones off and be fine.
Yeah, it's probably not a bad idea.
You too? How'd that hurt? Yeah.
So, all the darkness and the smoke and
I'm
can't
sitting right
tell,
next to you guys. I can still hear you.
Can't tell what the hell's
I'm
going on at all. I mean, it was a little bit nerve-wracking because I think half the stuff that happened in that first 30 minutes I probably missed.
Yeah.
It was bodies and blood flying everywhere. Who knew what the hell was going on?
Oh, by the way, spoiler alert. Sorry.
Yeah.
We will do a spoiler-free review of Endgame. Sorry, we're skipping right through that with Game of Thrones because it was epic and everybody tried to ruin it for me on Facebook anyway. So
yeah. So I mean, ultimately, the episode ended up being great, and you could probably watch the last 10 minutes of it and be happy, to be honest. But I mean, that's where everything really came to a head, right? They've answered so many questions, like that Barrett, for example, right?
Right.
Hey, what is Barrett's purpose? Why was he brought back to life a million times?
Right.
And now you have the answer, right? And it was something I guess so simple but meaningful in the story,
Yeah, and like I said before, I've said it. I was telling my wife earlier, and when we were talking before we recorded, I had a real strong suspicion that Red Woman was coming back at some point to do something, and she did. She rolled up and didn't. I mean, she did a good amount in the episode, but okay. So she comes in, she gives the Lord of Light fire to the Dothraki in the beginning. And then she disappears into the thing, and she tells, what's his face, you don't have to execute me, I'll be dead by morning. Oh, okay, cool. So then the Dothraki go off with their flaming swords, and I was like, this is epic. And you know what? They pulled me in hook, line, and sinker on that one. They got me to think exactly what they wanted me to think. I was like, this is going to be amazing. And then one by one, all those flames went out. I was like, "Holy shit, this is bad."
What was the Dothraki army? Like 5,000 strong or something?
Yeah, it was ridiculous.
In 60 seconds.
Yeah, 2 minutes tops. So everybody else comes back. So, side note, don't know what happened to Ghost, one of the last.
Yeah.
Because he ran off with them, and then he don't come back. So
I'd say it's unlikely that he's gone, but
probably he'll show up again. He probably ran off to whatever, but yeah, he'll show up again when you least expect him to. But then they do, that whole thing, that was kind of, it set you right away to, this is going to be bad.
Yeah.
And then it just got worse and worse from that point on.
Yeah.
To the point where I was like, there is literally no way out of this there's no way. And they do a good job of that, setting that whole thing up. Where it's like, no, most of the people that you give a shit about in the show are going to die. Then, spoiler alert again. All right, you need to put your fingers in your ears this time, just one time, real quick, Paul, so you can't hear what I'm about to say. All right,
la 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 la.
That's not gonna help. So now nobody else can hear me. Just cover your ears. All right. So the whole Arya Night King.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I did not see that one coming.
Yeah, I didn't either.
Now the whole line with the Red Woman, like, what do we say to the King of Death?
Yeah, so
she said not today. I was like, that's sweet.
Yeah.
Because I really thought she was going to die because I thought they were setting Arya up to die there, with that whole thing. And then when all that shit went, everything looked like it was lost. And that moment, I was like, no shit.
And did you notice what she killed him with?
No. Well, I mean,
it was the dagger that Littlefinger had given to Bran.
Okay.
Steel dagger. It's been around since like episode 2.
Okay.
Somebody tried to
you see the little flip
Bran
she did?
Yeah.
The flip.
Yeah. I saw somebody comparing that to the new Star Wars with Rhea. She does a little move like that when she's fighting the Red Guard or whatever.
Well, there's something on Twitter of Maisie Williams and the one who plays Brienne.
Mm-hmm.
They're doing a sword fight, and Maisie's got a dagger on the Twitter.
Yeah, she flips hands on.
She flips
it's not quite the same, but yeah.
No,
but
the movement is amazing. This kid is good.
Well, so it kind of gives some purpose to everything that happened to her in 3 or 4 seasons and all the training and because you kind of got to wonder, what was it all for? Was it just character building? But now you have an answer, right? That all culminated to an event that would end everything. Well, and it doesn't end everything. And that's actually what I love the most about this episode, because if you watch this show from pretty much the beginning, you think the story is about the dead versus the living, right? That's where it's going to end.
Right.
That's not where it ends.
Yeah,
that's not the end of the
That's
story.
what shocked me.
The dead is not the greatest threat.
Because you still have how many more episodes to go?
Yeah,
exactly. You've got a good amount of story left. You're like, what the really? For it to be that abrupt, I was like, oh shit.
Yeah, right.
So they really got me with that one, because I thought there was going to be at some point in there, something was going to happen, and most of your fan favorites were going to retreat, whatever, and it didn't go that way at all. So it was going to be cool. So at the end of the episode, you got the end of that battle, or that threat. Then you know that Arya's a badass, if you didn't know that already. Apparently she's grown up kind of hot too. That's all over the internet now. And the first thing everybody Googled after the second episode was her age. Like, you bunch of dirty old man.
I still see her as sort of a little girl. I don't.
Right, that's why everybody's like,
actually,
how old is she?
The scene with the Smith or whatever, it kind of weirded me out.
Yeah, no, that's why everybody started Googling her age real quick. Like, no, she's an adult. And then, of course, Sansa is still useless. So just throwing that out there. Sorry. Yeah. She has not had a moment for me yet. It's just like, oh, okay, she's going to be a badass. Nope, you still suck. So, all right, cool. That's on that note. Hi, Paul. Come back. How you doing? He literally rolled 4 feet away. It wasn't even... God, we're going to have to get a soundproof room in this friggin' garage or something. Yeah, turn yourself back on.
There. Hi. What have you guys been talking about?
Yeah, right? Now you're...
Red ladies and underage girls, is that what I heard?
Why the hell are you so loud? Maybe
you wife's been asking me that for weeks.
I know.
Years. Excuse me.
That's what my wife typically tells me. Like, she can't sleep whenever we record because my voice, somehow in this friggin' McMansion that I bought, it bellows through this garage and upstairs, and she can hear me. Not right? You guys. The only other thing she ever hears is Eric when he's making a point and he's thumping on the table. She can hear it thumping through the house.
That's funny.
So stop your shit.
Sorry about that.
Sorry, Heather.
There you go. All right. So anyway, Paul's got to play catch up on Game of Thrones because it's fucking amazing. And we only got like 3 episodes left. So
that's it.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Then the season's done.
And the show's done.
The show's done.
Show is done.
Probably some spin-offs, but I mean that'll be the end of it.
There's supposed to be a prequel. Exactly what it's supposed to be about? Probably like Ned Stark and Robert Baratheon, whatever I think it's supposed to be. But it's been months since I read about it. It's supposed to be a prequel coming out. But the guys, their names are going away. Benny Weiss and Ross, whoever makes Game of Thrones, the guys that are the showrunners for Game of Thrones, are the ones that are pinged to do the Star Wars, one of the Star Wars series on Disney Plus.
Cool.
So, and it's looking more and more like it's going to be like the Knights of the Old Republic video game. So you're going to get a Game of Thrones feel with Jedi. So it's going to be really awesome. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to that. I guess side note to that, does anybody have anything else before we get into this shit?
Oh, did we finish the What Are You Into?
No. Go
ahead. I've been binge watching some series this week.
Side note, I asked him when we were talking because he was rattling off some stuff he's been watching before you got here. I said, cool, did you check out anything I told you to do? And he's like, no. Okay, fair enough, fucker.
Yeah, I'll have to write it down this time. Take it back with me. So, you guys watch any Star Trek stuff? I know some people watch Star Wars, some won't touch it. But
I have. I've been meaning to get back into some of the newer stuff, but
I haven't seen the new one that's on. Is it All Access?
CBS All Access, right? So, Star Trek Discovery, which just as an amusing point, so all the Star Treks get abbreviated, right? Like STTNG for Next Generation. They do LOS for the original. So this one is Star Trek Discovery, so the abbreviation is STD, which I think was a little bit of an oversight. But anyway, it's a really re-envisioned from
it's one I should be into.
Because this takes place at the same time as the original series from the 60s or whatever, right? But unlike a lot of the old movies and stuff, they haven't stuck to trying to make the technology look the same. They've redone everything. Like the screens are crazy, like floating in the air, and what you'd expect from hundreds of years from now, right?
Sure.
And at some point, they do actually meet with the old Enterprise during this series, but even that they kind of play it off. So they're all in fairly modern looking uniforms, but then the guys that are coming off the Enterprise are in those solid colored yellow, and they're all making fun of it, like, oh yeah, this is the new Starfleet uniforms. They're kind of joking about it. So they try to keep some of that in there, but by and large, everything is updated. The special effects are incredible for a show that's on CBS, honestly, and nothing else. It's actually really good. The storytelling is great, and they've re-envisioned the Klingons like completely. They feel so foreign and alien now, not like really humanoid anymore. Cool. And they've made them very organic and like obsessed with ritual, and it's really cool how they did it. And they've slowly tried to integrate that over a couple seasons. I just finished season 2, which is all that's out right now. But they've kind of integrated that and sort of tried to bring it back to the old one to tie different things in, so you don't feel like it's completely off the rails, you know. But it's really good. It's really good. It's probably one of the best, as good as any of the feature movies for the last few years.
Oh, nice. All right, cool.
And then
check it out.
The other thing I started watching was
after I check out Star Trek Penicillin.
Penicillin. Yeah. The other thing I started this week was The Expanse. Have you guys heard of that?
No. So, you told me the title, and then
yeah. So that's another sort of like a space opera, I guess. But it's all based in the solar system. So humans have colonized like Mars and Ceres and some other planets and stuff. But basically, Mars has sort of like broken off and become their own faction, if you will. So it's all humans on humans. There's no aliens or anything, but
they're on.
But there's all these different factions, and they're all fighting against each other. And basically, Earth and Mars are in a Cold War, and something happens in the show, which happens right at the beginning, which threatens to end that Cold War and turn it into a real war. So that's what the series is following. And this is actually based on a set of novels by James S. A. Corey that they've adapted for TV, and it's sci-fi, but again, I mostly hated any sci-fi movies I've watched, but this one's really good. It's done really well. The directing is great. Special effects are great. It doesn't look fake like a lot of the sci-fi shows have in the past. So it's really cool. You guys check it out. And it's available free. If you've got Amazon Prime, you can watch it for free.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I do. All right, cool. All right. So, yeah, well, and on the what are you watching stuff, I'm still checking out that Black Summer, that zombie one that I was talking about.
Right.
If you guys are even remotely looking for anything zombified at all, it's really cool. So I'm looking forward to that. Okay. So I saw a trailer today. I saw half of one because apparently my internet decided to just shit the bed, and I think I know why. But I saw this trailer, and I don't know. Have either of you seen the trailer for the Sonic the Hedgehog movie?
No, but I saw a shot of what Jim Carrey looks like.
I'm pretty sure that's what killed my internet when I was watching this fucking trailer. But, yeah. There's a moment when they do the
should we pause it so we can watch the trailer?
Yeah, we might as well. All right, yeah, let's pause this because I only got halfway through it anyway. Hang on, guys. All right, so I don't know. I'll have to cut out whatever the hell you broke up there. So, all right, now that I've said, hey, we watched Endgame and Shazam and all these awesome movies. The next movie coming up that everyone's going to be dying for, Sonic the Hedgehog.
Yeah.
I saw that trailer today while I was cooking. I was grilling chicken for the family before these guys got here. So I said, did you see it? They said, no. Okay. So I showed it to them. What do you think? Are you ready?
Hard pass.
Hard pass.
Hard pass. That looks incredibly stupid.
Yeah, it's a terrible rendering of Sonic. Jim
the
Carrey
minute
as
he
a
shows
villain,
up on the screen, I almost threw up all over my grill.
Yep.
But go ahead.
Jim Carrey as a villain and Coolio's Gangster Paradise playing in the background. Like everything you need to know about that movie is in that terrible trailer.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah. The music just doesn't fit. I guess Coolio really needs the money. Sorry, Cool, but
no, you know what that was? I'll tell you exactly what that was, and correct me if you think I'm wrong. This is all these movies now who have these. You immediately, you connect the movie with the song because it's from your childhood, whatever. They were trying to find a song for that. They weren't they were just trying to find a song that people remembered.
Like, give us something
From that
the
era.
from the 90s, early
Yeah.
2000s.
And something that was really popular back then, and they didn't even try remotely to
Right.
blend it with Sonic. I mean, give me something that's like that makes you think of Speed or whatever. I don't know, but
It's worse
Coolio?
than that because that song was made famous by a movie.
right, yeah.
Right.
Thank you.
But about at least that song fit that movie,
Yeah.
right? Like, this song does not fit this movie. And you've got Jim
And
Carrey.
at least that had Michelle Pfeiffer.
You've got Jim Carrey just being what we think of as in the sort of classic Jim Carrey Ace Ventura role. Like,
It was Jim Carrey being Jim Carrey.
Right.
Yeah. I don't now. I haven't seen anything that dude's been in like ages, so I don't know what he's been doing, but I don't know if he knows how to be anything else.
No, he doesn't.
Like, he's
If
turning-
you've
he's
seen
like-
the-
he's
if you've
done the
seen
Johnny
the
Depp.
Truman Show, it's the one like offset from his cast
Yeah.
typing that ever sort of
That was
worked.
really good. Yeah.
It's the one
Yeah.
ever.
Yeah, I love
Forget
that
about
movie.
anything else
Yeah.
because
yeah,
you
they're
just
like,
can't do it.
be the Jim Carrey from Ace Ventura, The Mask, old In Living Color.
Yeah.
All
Like,
wrapped
be-
in one.
Yeah, be that guy.
Well, so and it works for some things, right? For the Grinch movie, perfect. He was a perfect cast
Yeah.
for the Grinch.
You know what?
movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it doesn't work in a lot of places.
For
And
people
since
that
this
don't
movie's
like
a
the
complete
Grinch-
failure, I'll just call it now. It's not gonna work.
Oh yeah, no, this is an abomination. The minute you see him, sneakers and these long legs, I was like, I kind of feel like I'm watching something I shouldn't be watching anymore.
The only good part of that trailer may have been after you left. He's got Sonic in a bag, and he's covered, and he says something, and the lady's like, "Do your kid is that a kid in the bag?" And he's like, "Yes, but it's not my kid." And
yeah,
then
it
everyone
was the
starts to walk
best
away from
thing.
it.
Yeah, it was the best thing out of the whole thing. So
That's terrible.
well, never let it be said that I'm not here to ruin your lives.
Yeah.
So I had this thought last week after we had our discussion about books and movies, about games and movies, right? Because they tried to do that a few times with the Street Fighter and there's been some others, and they've all been relatively terrible, to be honest.
We can roll this one into. We will have to have that.
That's
What
the-
video game movies even remotely came close? Because
The
video games have a
offshoot.
stigma. There's never been a really good video game movie.
Yeah.
So we can have that conversation maybe next week,
yeah, there really
especially
hasn't.
after I.
At the time we do the movie book conversation, we can tangent off of. Has there ever been a good movie made based on a
See,
video
we're
game?
coming up with all kinds of
Somebody write that down. before we
topics. Yeah, write that down. Because you got my pen. Because I didn't get you one before. Sorry. So now that I've thrust that abomination on your eyes, and I pretty much owe both of you alimony, because Jesus, that was so bad. I'm sorry. I'll pay therapy bills. That's not going to be good at all. I got a palate cleanser. Last week, we're going to pause it again. Sorry, guys. Last week, we discussed some trailers and whatever, and then we had asked you if you'd seen this trailer, that trailer, and I forget what trailer at that point we asked you to watch, but I briefly mentioned Brightburn, and I think then you said you hadn't seen that one, right? All right.
What I watched last week was Child's Play.
Child's Play,
Right.
right? Okay. All right, so you still haven't seen the Brightburn trailer?
No.
Okay, so you have no idea what you're about to get into. Okay, so now John strikes again. It's like a good, a bad omen. I don't know. I did this once before. I accidentally hit the pause button instead of the stop button. So when I went to re-record again after Brightburn, I just hit record. And we've been sitting here talking for like the last 20 minutes. And I mean, I got up to piss, whatever, and nothing recorded. So sorry. So okay, we'll go back real quick to Brightburn. You the first thing you noticed was James Gunn.
Yeah.
And it took you, 2 minutes to realize that
yeah.
it was actually a dark Superman take.
Really, until the door was getting sort of cut in half, and then there was a guy flying through. Yeah, I really didn't realize it was happening.
Yeah, so, we're going to blow through all that shit, because we were already talking about Endgame, so now we're all mad. Sorry. My fault.
Brightburn going to be cool.
Brightburn's going to be
Evil
cool.
Superman story.
Yeah, and one of the things that, a lot of that was just us doing our speculation on our future episodes. So we added in, we want to do a, what if you took one hero or one character from a story and you put them in a different genre and what would happen? And we're going to try to play with that. So if you guys think of anything along those lines or something similar, drop it in the comments or throw us an email or something if you ever decide to friggin' talk to us. Okay, so anyway, now that we're back to superheroes, let's go Endgame. No spoiler again. Sorry.
All right, well, we tried that. We didn't record it,
Yeah, we
so
tried that,
let's
yeah.
just spoil it.
Oh, God. All right, real quick. No spoilers. We all saw the movie over the last 3 days, and we all thought it was epic.
Yes.
And I said, the last thing I said before I went to go take a leak, and Eric went and he expounded on all kinds of cool shit that I didn't get. I said that this seemed to me like it was Marvel's victory lap for the last 22 movies, and it was well deserved. And if there's anything else you guys want to add in on the non-spoiler, sorry, you can throw it in there now.
It's worth talking about again,
Yeah.
only because I found the comics and I handed you a few of them the other day, right? So this whole story was based on repeat myself, but nobody will know I'm repeating myself. So this whole story was based largely on the Infinity
almost like the
Gauntlet
Quantum Realm.
series, which you know, of course, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Paul was saying, well, is there going to be another epic arc like this? Of course, we don't know, but I was saying it's interesting because there is another epic arc in the comics, and that's where Adam Warlock comes
almost
in.
immediately
Who
after,
we know for sure will be introduced in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3.
Yeah.
So will they do something with that? I don't know. It remains to be seen. It could be a Phase 5 thing. Who knows? But,
Yeah, that's true. Well, they have said that Phase 4 is supposed to go more into the cosmic stuff because of Guardians 3. So
it will. So I saw
you got Captain Marvel.
Nova was on the list.
Yep, you got Captain Marvel is already going for a sequel, and then you got Nova coming up. Guardians. You got the original Guardians. So who knows? I mean, who are now the Reavers,
right?
Or the Ravagers, whatever. So yeah, so you can roll out that whole side of things. And Adam Warlock fits perfectly in there. So.
But there's another Black Panther movie. There's another Doctor Strange movie. There's
you're gonna have a lot of stuff still on Earth, but it seemed like what they said was they were gonna kind of lean toward the cosmic,
right?
Because in the comics you also have like what recently happened and recently been the last 10 years, Annihilation, where a nihilist comes out of the microverse or whatever, and there's a whole space thing there.
Yep.
That's got a lot to do with all those guys out in space. So.
I think there's probably 5 or 6 celestial beings that are introduced in that whole storyline that really change a lot of things.
Yeah.
Make it from a sort of compartmentalized stories into a big DC, Marvel multiverse.
Yeah.
And they did that all through the 90s, all the way up in 2000, like linking all those together. So.
Yeah, and now that they've rolled in the Fox thing, they've got a bigger window they can play around with. We'll see.
Yeah. So there's some other interesting problems they have, though, right? So I just learned the other day, I was reading about licensing rights for the characters, right? And if you've been to Universal Studios, which I'm sure we all have, you've got that huge Marvel thing there. It's like, oh, that's weird. Right. Yeah. Disney owns this now. But what I actually read was that Universal still owns all the rights to Hulk movies.
Yes.
It was one of several.
Which is why they stopped after the Norton one, because they didn't want to play game with Disney.
They have to do some interesting things when they're making movies, and they have to specifically exclude characters or whole plots, maybe, because somebody else owns the rights to it, right? So I guess that's why it's the MCU and not Marvel classically, right? They have to change a lot of things.
Yeah.
Well, and so you wonder if they can bring in the Fantastic Four into this universe, which allows you to bring in Galactus and some of those sort of monster events.
With the Fox merger, the original thing that I heard was, you got Fantastic Four, X-Men, Namor, all those guys, right? But I read something only one time, so I don't know if it was somebody that was just talking out of their ass. It was on the internet, so there's a good possibility. But there was an article about how the Fantastic Four, the distribution rights are still out there. They're not part of Disney's deal. And I didn't get that feeling in any other article I got. So I want to kind of look into that more, because it was put out there. Yeah. That was the only time I heard that, but it was recently. It was like in the last 5 months that I read that. Which is weird, because everybody else was saying Fantastic Four, X-Men, they're all coming home. And then this one dude is like, well, yeah, but no, the Fantastic Four is not going to be coming.
Right.
Yeah, it's kind of weird, so we'll see. We can look more into that. And you guys maybe help me out. We'll look online and see if we can find something about it, but I don't know.
Before we end the non-spoiler, I think we skipped over like 30 minutes of conversation here.
Oh, we did.
Try to get some of it back, but there are a lot of hints in this movie about things that could happen in the future movies, right?
Yeah.
don't want to spoil it and say what it is, but
we'll get into it.
yeah.
Yeah, we'll get into it. Yeah, it was overall. I think, Paul, do you have anything else to add to the
I think the one thing I said when you got up was that the end of this movie, you leave the theater thinking that was a satisfying ending, and that doesn't always happen to these kind of epic things. Like, it doesn't matter what it is. It could be a series or something else. Things, the end of The Sopranos, right? You look back at that and you're like, I was so invested in that show, and that ending sucked.
Or even movie trilogies. Only 3 movies. You get like The Godfather.
Right.
One of my favorite movies ever. Godfather and Godfather 2. And then you get that Godfather 3 abomination.
Right.
Yeah.
We could add to the conversation about movies and books. Like, is there a sequel ever better than the original? The Godfather Part 2 might be as good, if not better,
You got pens.
than the first one.
Sorry.
But
Sequel better than the original.
But you leave this movie, you're just like, okay, that was awesome.
Yeah.
Everything is sort of as it should be.
Yeah, and like I said, I think the final note on the non-spoiler will be, one, at least John actually looks at the clock on the Audacity feed, so we know that.
We'll remind you.
I glanced
remind you.
I glanced at it a couple times. I was like, something's not right there. No, the only note that I've got is, like I said, this was definitely a victory lap. You definitely got the sense throughout the entire movie of everybody from Kevin Feige through the Russos, through the actors, everybody just kind of like run around on set high-fiving each other and high-fiving the fans as they did it too. There were nods to the fans. There was all kinds of little nods to the comics and this and that. Nods back to the first sets of movies. It just kind of, it was just an all-around like a, while it told a really, really good story, it also gave you that whole like, yeah, we're going to wrap this up. We're going to wrap it up in an epic way, and we're going to have a good time doing it.
Yep.
So it was really cool. And where they go from here, who the hell knows?
Yeah. Chris Pratt did something on his Instagram page. He snuck his phone into shooting one of the scenes, and so he pans across the set, and everybody's in there. But everybody's like just kind of chilling in the spot they're supposed to be. So David Bautista's like the first person you see in the frame as he goes by, and then but like when they get to Zoe Saldana, she's wearing a jacket. She's got all the makeup on, but she's wearing a jacket.
Mm-hmm.
You go around and like I'm blanking on the kid that plays Spider-Man. Tom Holland is like, he's crouched down. He's just kind of sitting there.
Oh, they shoved that kid down in a hole somewhere during the promotion for this movie.
Yeah.
Because he didn't have a peep about this movie.
Yeah.
He's the worst.
And everyone's just kind of like, they're all kind of waiting. I guess I don't know what they're doing, lighting or something, but everybody's on set. And he said in the notes as he posted it, like, I almost got in trouble for shooting this, but I thought I'd wait until at least it was out. Like, I don't think he released it till maybe Sunday night or Monday.
Yeah, well, that's okay.
Because,
right
like, to figure out like who's still in it.
Yeah. Well, that's
so
what I'll tell you. On the note that you said that, since you started mentioning some people by name, we can roll right into our spoiler shit because that's about as close to spoiler-ish that we're gonna get.
Yeah.
Because you already kind of rolled out some names for people, but just being on scene. But Marvel did the same thing though, and I read that in an article. They were like, once they hit that 1.2 billion, they're like, they tried to do a thank you to the fans, but it kind of spoiled some of the movie by showing some picture or whatever.
Right.
So an article picked up was like, really?
Yeah.
But excuse me. There we go. So all right, spoiler time, dudes.
That's right. Okay. If you haven't seen it, now's the time to pause this, go buy yourself a ticket, and watch this movie.
Yes, you need
It's
to
well
see
worth
this
it.
in the theater.
Yeah. Don't wait for this to come on Netflix in 18 months or however long it's going to take. Don't wait for this to come out on DVD.
Don't watch the cam video online
Yeah.
like I watch some movies. Sorry.
Not those movies. Not those movies.
Well, not saying that this is not out there, but it's out there.
Yeah.
But you need to go see this movie.
Yeah, do yourself a favor and see it.
See it
On a
in
big
the theaters.
screen.
Yeah. If you can, you go see it like in an IMAX or XD, like I did. It's amazing. Or if you can't see it in XD, then you do like Eric did, and you go where they're going to serve you alcohol,
Yeah.
and you can just kick back like a king and watch this damn movie. So,
I may be seeing it again because a buddy of mine.
you want to grab me one, please, sir?
I may be seeing it again. A friend of mine did not get to go with his family, so I may be seeing it again sometime.
Cool. When are we going?
Yeah, right. I'll let you know.
All right. So spoilers. Let's get right into this shit. If you recall, when we spoke about what we expected out of even just Infinity War and all the conversations we've had about the MCU, right? When we led into, he's beating the shit out of me. Oh, it's recycling. I was like, what the hell's going on back there? Thank you. Yes, for those of you, the 2 out of the 3 that don't know, we record in my garage, so the beer fridge is nearby, and we hang out and we partake. So anyway, one of the things that I said was I predicted you were going to see the whole Hawkeye thing. Remember that?
Yep.
And I almost called it. I said prior to all this, I'm like, I bet a stinger at the end of one of these movies is going to be, because I knew Ronan was coming because of like film shots, like still shots from the movie, and people were like, oh, he looks like he's dressed like Ronan. Okay, cool. So I was telling Paul one time we were recording, I said, you know what? I bet one of the stingers at the end is going to be Hawkeye's farm, and he's like maybe in the kitchen with his wife or whatever, and it's like his kids are in the yard on the swing, and like he looks outside and he doesn't see them anymore. He turns around, his wife is gone. Explains the Ronan thing, because in the comics, did you ever read Ronan?
Yeah, so that actually holds true for a bunch of characters, though. It's something they missed in the Infinity War movie, right? Most of them don't know what happened until they see it, like, in their personal lives. Like, somebody's missing, right? They weren't all there when Thanos snapped his finger.
Right,
That's
so
not
they
how it
don't
works.
know.
Yeah. So I appreciate that they added that in there, because it's really only Hawkeye they did it with, I think, in the movie, right? Nobody else really had that
outside of the ones that
moment of, like, they were doing something and all of a sudden their family was just gone.
Outside of the shot at the end of where Ant-Man gets stuck, which is in the end scene,
and
I think of Ant-Man and the Wasp. Yeah. He doesn't realize it, but you see that Pym and what's her name, Hope, get
all 3 of them.
Yeah,
because
what's
Janet's there too. They all 3 of them go. That one was gut wrenching. That was like, oh shit, because then you also realized where that movie tied in.
Yeah,
and like, oh shit, and then they go into that later on in the movie, and we'll get to that in a second. But so the Hawkeye thing, literally outside of who was standing where, I damn near called this. If you remember, I was like, the kids are going to be playing on a swing or something, and whatever's going to happen, and then they're going to be gone, and that's going to turn him into Ronan. This is kind of similar to the comic. He became Ronan because like his family died, and Cap had died, and whatever, and Ronan is a samurai without a master, so hence the name, blah, blah, blah. So when the movie opened up with that scene, I was like, oh shit, here we go. And it happened. They did a really good job with it.
Yeah, they did.
That was like my one little, like, my moment of, I guess, pat on the back, self-vilification, kind of, oh, okay, I called that one coming. And then they roll into the brief beginning credit kind of thing. Because you don't see Avengers Endgame until, like, later. They roll into, it rolls from there, it does something, and then it rolls into the Avengers.
There's sort of movie kind of opening, a little bit more movie title screen.
And then there's a title screen, So you do the Hawkeye thing, his family gets dusted, and it's, and all 3 of you, all 3 of us can agree, I think, on Jeremy Renner, as much shit as he gets for Hawkeye. I mean, I like him personally, and I think he gets a lot more shit than he deserves. I mean, I get it, he's just there. But we've said before, they even make fun of it, like, I'm standing here with a bow and arrow. What the hell are you talking about? Why am I here? But I'm here to do something, know. So he's making an effort. Jeremy Renner as an actor in that scene in the beginning, just like as a dad, and your family is gone. Yeah, I was like, holy shit! I can really feel it with that guy. Like he was just like running around, like, what the fuck is going on? There was a brief second when he called for his kids and he whistled. There was a half a second where I was like, either he's looking for his dog, and then I remembered that my father used to whistle for me the same way. I was like, never mind, got it. So, so yeah. So all right, go ahead. You guys go.
No, I thought everything in the movie is really well done. I loved how they did you're going to go back in time. We all sort of knew it. The only way you're going to get this done was to go back in time. I did like that they found Thanos kind of right away, and then Thor just chops his head off. I thought that was cool. So and now you're like, okay, now how are we going to get out of this? Like, now what are we going to do?
Well, see, now on that note, and sorry, Eric, because
go
I want to try to flow this
the
a little bit with the movie. I want to try to flow this a little bit, kind of like the movie went a little bit, because I know sometimes like Paul and I will just start rambling, and then we realize it's like 1:00 in the morning, and we haven't made like 3 points. So, but I want to try to at least flow this somewhat with the movie.
Yeah, no, we can do it chronologically. So this is the next step then.
Before the movie came out, Feige said, and we spoke about this, the trailers only show you the first 15 minutes of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, shut up. Because there's a lot in there. I was impressed when he said it, and I kind of believed it, but I was like, God, that's impressive if you can do it. And I was sitting in that theater, just kicked back, and I was like, son of a bitch. Like, everything outside of the one Ant-Man shot when he's going, and that's later in the movie, but when he's like jumping on the pencil and whatever, like when he's tiny.
Yeah. Outside
of that, I think he was right. And them walking.
Them walking in the new
yeah, because they had to do that. Yeah. But outside of that, almost everything came out of the first 15 minutes of this freaking movie. And I was just like, yeah, I'm done. You know what? I'll give you twice my money for what you just did. Because it's fucking stupid.
Yeah.
You made trailers out of like this much of the movie, and here we are. Right? So then they get to, all right, and anyone who's seen the trailer has seen this part of the movie where they plan to go get Thanos. Captain Marvel's like, I'm going to go whoop Thanos' ass. And the rest of the Avengers are like, well, fuck it, we got a stake in this too. We're going to get him too. And that's the whole Thor with the, I like this one.
Yeah.
And, well, okay, go ahead, Eric.
Yeah, that scene actually shocked me. So I had a lot of ideas about what I thought might happen. And I knew there was going to be a deviation from the original story. It has to be. But to see Thanos die in the first 15 minutes of the film, like, what?
Yeah, that messed me up. I
had a much different idea about how the Infinity Stones would get destroyed, and it wasn't that way.
Well,
Not for me.
Now, I never realized, because there's that scene where when they go find Thanos and they say, we need to fix this, and he's like, no, I've destroyed him. That's why you saw that signal. I've destroyed the Infinity Stones. Problem number one that I had with the movie was you've led us up till now to believe these things cannot be destroyed. So maybe all together they can destroy themselves, sure, but just within your own kind of your own rules, you've established these things cannot be destroyed multiple times. So I get it for that. They need to be destroyed, but we're gonna get to that again later.
But couldn't in Infinity War, Scarlet Witch was about to destroy the one in Vision's head.
So
she did destroy the one, but
because he said
the stone can destroy itself, right? Its own power can destroy itself. That's the only way.
And that's why. Okay, and because when we were watching that, because even Noah was like, "How did she kill it?" And I was like, "Well, because her powers are from the stone. Her powers are from the same stone."
So I know I'm jumping ahead here. But
yeah, I know. We're gonna never mind. We're gonna jump all over the place.
Just briefly because it's important here because. For me, that was a rule they established. The stones can only be destroyed by the stones, right? Or somebody with the power that came from the stones, right? And Captain Marvel pisses me off more than anything because I thought she was going to be a huge part of this because they changed her origin story and her power came from the Tesseract, which is the Space Stone. Now, why do that if she's not going to destroy the Space Stone, right? For me,
right.
I was really pissed about that.
Well, see, on the flip side of that, on the flip side of that part, when we watched Captain Marvel, one of the things I said was I enjoyed the movie a lot because everyone was always like, oh, it's feminist, whatever, blah, blah. And we had that conversation like we didn't see it. I mean, I get your argument, but no, it's not there. I didn't want her to be so overpowered that it was like, okay, this whole arc, and then, bloop, here's your what do you call it, the Deus Ex Machina?
Yeah.
Right? It's just, bloop, here she is, the God of the Machine. Here she is, bang. and she just knocks out Thanos. I was afraid of that. I was afraid they were going to do that. Okay, so when they did a very good job of, again, we're jumping, but they did a very good job of when they were talking to her about, well, where the hell were you when we were fighting the Chitauri in New York? She was like, there's a lot of other planets out in this galaxy, and they don't all have Avengers.
Yeah.
That right there, I was like, all right, cool. You did it. You established why she can't just solve everybody's problems. I was happy about that because it was this close to being a problem. She's so friggin' overpowered.
Yeah.
But then now you throw in, once she did show up again later on, we'll get to that, she's not as overpowered as you think. But there was that gray area where everyone was afraid she was just going to be like okay, being done,
She is. I think she is overpowered, and so as a plot device, like we have to take you off the board.
Yeah.
Because you're a little too powerful. It's the problem. It would have been like the Justice League movie, which is
Superman.
Batman, Wonder Woman, and these other characters have to just go wake up Superman. Like the whole movie is we have to hurry up and wake up Superman, or this guy's going to beat our asses to death.
Right.
And so
yeah, same thing.
Yeah.
So they did a really good job of explaining why she's not there. There's a whole universe out here that I'm trying to help out too,
right.
And they don't all have you. So I know you're here to do this. I don't have to come running back here. So I get that. That was cool. So where were we before we made our third jump?
I don't
in the
know.
beginning. All right.
On, the point of her,
Thanos.
on the point of her being overpowered, though, in the comics, she was already really powerful for any superhero, right?
Yeah.
They changed the origin story in the movie to make her even more powerful. It came from an Infinity Stone. Why did they do that?
I don't know.
She didn't need it unless it was going to be a plot device.
In order for it to
Why
be a
did they
plot
do
device, but maybe they thought they were going to make it fit into this entire universe. I don't know. Now, side note to the first few minutes of this movie where they do their, okay, we're all going to go kill Thanos, and, Cap, let's go get the son of a bitch. Cap's not watching his mouth in this movie anymore. Did you notice that?
Actually,
he said ass. Everything.
He said all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
Where
they haven't gone Deadpool yet, but there was definitely whatever count is required to keep that rating. They were at the limit.
Yeah, but Cap was pushing it. That was the funny part. Was like this is pushed. It showed you how much Thanos pushed everybody because we'll get into it later. But Thor's broken. Even there, like in the very beginning, you could just see he's done. He's only got one thing on his mind.
Yeah.
Right to the point with the trailer when he summoned the Stormbreaker and Captain Marvel doesn't get phased, and he's like, I like this one. And they go, all right, Cap goes, let's go get the son of a bitch.
Yeah.
I'm like, here we go. So they go to get him. I knew, and I was just in conversation with some other people, I was like, at some point, the Infinity War, you should have gone for the head. I knew that was going to come back, but I was trying to figure out in the epic battle how they were going to do that because it wouldn't be a satisfying ending because when we talked, I thought it was going to be Cap and Iron Man fighting him at once and whatever, So they turned my theories on my head straight up. So I was like, oh, okay, cool. But I knew that you should have gone for the head was going to come back. I didn't know it was going to be in the first fucking 15 minutes of the damn movie when where are the stones? I've destroyed them. I use them to destroy themselves. And then just whack.
Yeah.
And then Cap, what did you do? I went for the head. I was like, holy shit. This got dark in a hurry. And so then we go into...
And we knew there was going to be time travel when we talked about this before the movie. You know that because it already happened, the only way to get this back is some sort of time travel. We didn't know exactly what it was going to look like.
Right. Even
knowing, walking in the movie, everybody figures out there's going to have to be time travel.
Oh, yeah.
I still thought they did it well.
They did amazing. So you get the time jump 5 years later.
Yeah. So a couple things on the 5 years later, and then I got one small... my problems with the movie are small, and we can talk about that in a second. 5 years later, you think that there would still, people would kind of get back to some sense of normalcy, right? The Mets would still play baseball, even if half the team disappeared. Now you'd have minor leaguer, you'd have subpar
Nobody
baseball
cleaned
players.
that shit up.
Right.
Nobody moved the boats out of the way.
Yeah, like,
there's- really,
No one can
In New
play
York?
baseball. No one can play baseball anymore. Like, I get it. Like, maybe I'd be playing for the Mets now because I could make it into the minor leagues, and because there's less play. Like, you'll get subpar baseball players, but people would still play baseball.
Yeah, well,
Like, there's still money to be made playing baseball.
Well, not below that or beyond that. Not playing baseball, but the people that are like going to clean shit up. All the you saw all the boats and everything was empty and everything. There was a lot. Now, granted, yes, half of everything got wiped out, so there's a lot of stuff to clean up.
Right.
Now, you did take the time to make a memorial. Good, cool, yay, because that's what America does.
Yeah.
You make memorials to everything. But I would agree that a lot more probably would have been cleaned up in 5 years. In 5 years, more would have been done. More would have been done.
I think I disagree strongly.
Yeah.
So imagine this, right? So there is a certain amount of people that are required to maintain all the infrastructure we have for power and all this other stuff, right? I'm going low level here, but when half the people disappear, you still have the same distribution everywhere. You still have the same needs, right? Like, imagine if your wife and 2 of your kids disappear, what happens to your house tomorrow? Right? What are you gonna do?
Okay, yeah.
Right? Like, so you're gonna move to somewhere different and abandon this place. That might be what you do, but I mean, imagine that times 3.5 billion or whatever's left, right? Like, what really happens? How do those people, like, in a short time, try to consolidate into smaller areas where they can manage all the infrastructure and all this other stuff? I don't know if that could actually happen in that quick of a time period.
Just to show you how random my mind works, in the minute that you said I disagree wholeheartedly or strongly, I went to Stephen King, The Stand, and when most of the population gets wiped out, right, and they try to rebuild, one of the first things they do is when they rebuild, they take over a town, they clean it up, they get rid of the bodies, whatever. Of course, not a problem there. But one of the
They sweep up with a giant dustpan.
Yeah, pretty much. God, that was dark. no such thing as too soon. One of the problems they have is they try to get the power back on. Because the power's gone out, right? Everything's that made it worse. Don't do that
It didn't matter.
Yeah, it's just a big pop. When they go to turn the power back on, the grid blows, right? And then they realize, well, shit, everything that anybody was using is on right now. So they have to go around the entire town, shut everything off, put out fires because someone's toaster oven was on.
Right.
So, okay, Eric, to your point, yeah, I just see how quick I can. There you go. This is why I'm like the host and the guy who's sitting in the middle, because I got to figure this shit out sometimes. And then other times they got to rein me in. I get it. It might have taken a lot longer to fix something on that level because there's all kinds of shit going wrong. Yeah. So, okay, all right, I get it.
I did think at one point it would be really hard to, like, who's going to work on the oil rigs? Who's going to go, like, get some of the raw materials out of the ground that we need? So I had that thought, but then I thought, yeah, they're going to play baseball. Like, those are the two thoughts I had.
The only thing fucking Paul was worried about was the damn Mets.
Yeah, I would actually agree with you that they would probably consolidate the teams down. But then you have to ask yourself, like, is there really going to be, like, national broadcast TV right away? And how long does that take to recover? And what happens to baseball teams when they're not televised?
Most of these guys are just playing out in the field somewhere.
Can they be paid $1 million anymore? I mean, effectively, half the GDP in the world, half the GDP contribution is gone. So can they pay a baseball player $1 million a year? No, they can't do that anymore. Now they can pay him $500,000 because that's all there is.
All right, cool. So now that I started this, let's pinhole this conversation for later. What happens realistically when half of the population goes away? I want to have this. This is a really cool story. Let's play around with that later. Oh my god, sorry. But yeah. So anyway, I had that one note that I thought they would clean it all up, but I'm okay with it. It wasn't that big a deal. Then you move on to the. All right, so Captain Marvel's been with the Avengers, right? And you jump to Tony and Nebula. You know, they're on the ship trying to fix it and whatever, and that's the whole him cutting the series of recordings for Pepper, and you know, and you can tell he's just done. And so, all right, briefly, you get he's about to die, oxygen's out, food and water are gone, and then you see that glow. Mm-hmm. And that picks up after the end credits of Captain Marvel, when she showed up at Avengers HQ looking for Fury. So now something has happened there, and they've been working together. Okay, we realize that we have people still out on this other planet or wherever.
Go find them.
She has the ability, so she goes. They don't cover any of that in the movie. She's just there. Boom. Which was cool. I've heard some people complain that they would have liked to have seen whatever, but you don't need that. It's got nothing to do with the story. I mean, well, it does, but it doesn't give anything to the story. Right. So she's there. If you've paid attention to a damn Marvel movie, one, you know to stay in the after credits, and then two, you know that these things just all tie together. So, Paul's looking at the computer.
I'm just making sure we're actually recording.
Oh yeah, we're recording.
Okay.
Hey, you want me to turn that to you? There. All right. Don't mind the scratching. There. Yeah. So, you didn't really have to show like the whole growth of her with the team, whatever. It was just implied, and it was good enough. So she shows up, she saves them. The thing I thought was really cool was they show when they land, Tony, how emaciated he is. Mm-hmm. Like they did a good job with that. Like no food and water for a long time. Yeah. You're living off of that arc reactor. Nebula can just live for a little while. She's like, nah, you take what you need. We're about to die, so yeah. So they come down. I really, really liked that entire back and forth between him and Cap.
Yeah, me too.
I liked that a lot. They played that really well.
Yeah, they did.
Just the callbacks to the other movies when he's like, this is why I wanted that armor around the world.
Yeah. It wouldn't have helped, by the way.
Well, no, not at all. But knowing Tony's personality, knowing Cap's personality, leading into those movies, you understood where they were coming from. But then you get to this one, you're like, yeah, I mean, he had a point, obviously.
Right.
And he did the whole thing. Where the hell were you?
It keeps the whole, like, Tony Stark is sort of end justifies the means. We will adapt and change and sort of, if you're playing a Dungeons & Dragons game with him, he's sort of neutral good or even maybe chaotic good. Cap is just lawful good all the time. Like, nope, we're not changing. Nope. Like, that was wrong then, it's wrong now.
Right.
Even knowing the outcome, that would still have been wrong.
And that's an important attribute that he has, both in the comics and the movie, because it's the reason he can wield him.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, now we jumped way over.
I did.
No, it's fine. No, we're good. No,
but I mean, it's an important tie-in. Because,
well, welcome to What If Geeks, because this is how we do things. And we go, oh, wait, but go back to this. So, so our fans are just like, what the fuck are these guys talking about? All right. Jump around a little bit. The next thing in my head was when they figure out they want to do this whole time travel thing. First they go to Tony and he's like, nah, I'm good. Sorry. Not that he's good. And you can even see it right there. Like, not that he's good, but I made a life. He's got a daughter. He's with Pepper.
Yep.
He's just, I'm sorry. I can't.
Yeah, so he's one of the few that didn't suffer at all from this, really.
Yeah.
Because he had nobody, and the couple somebodies he had
were there. Yeah, they were there, and he was able to make a life, and he's like, I have this, and I can't give it up.
He has a friend in Rhodey that's not gone.
Yeah.
And
he's got Pepper, and now he has
He's got Jon Favreau's character who's still alive, yeah.
Was he alive back then, in the beginning? Because you don't see him at all. I don't.
Oh.
They don't touch on Happy at all until later.
That's a good question. That's a good point.
Yeah, that'll be taken out of context later. They don't touch on Happy at all. So he doesn't want anything to do with it. He's already still pissed at Cap from before, and he wants nothing to do with it. But they plant that seed in his head that we can fix all of this and help everybody. And one of Tony's biggest, not flaws, but probably one of his biggest attributes is, as self-centered as everybody thinks he is still deep down inside that hero.
Yeah.
They played on that in the first Avengers when Cap said, "You're not the guy to lay on the wire," and he said, "I just cut the wire."
Yeah.
But then what happens with the nuke? He flies it off into space and almost dies.
Yeah.
You know.
So, but they still left that self-centered sort of feeling on it, right? Because
Yeah.
what's the stipulation he makes when he agrees to all this? It's that we can fix everything
But we
the
don't
way it
change
is
anything.
now.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Everybody comes back today, and the whole 5 years that happened because you're not changing my perfect life.
Right.
Which to me was a really cool, to your point earlier, Paul, of the time travel, how they play around with time travel in this movie. To me, that was a really cool way of playing around with it, because any other time you see this, it's, nope, you're going to give this up in order to do this. And he didn't have to, you know. So, see you in a minute. You didn't think I was going to call attention to it. It's Eric's turn. So they do the whole, he doesn't want anything to do with them, and they say, well, we need to try to fix this. Okay, so we skipped over the whole Ant-Man thing.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, was freaking hilarious.
Yeah.
Because he shows up out of nowhere in that damn van, and
Because a rat jumped across the thing. Yeah.
And so he pops out of the quantum realm after Ant-Man and the Wasp, and he's in storage because everything's locked up because everybody's gone. And the only person around him is the security guard, and is Ken Jeong, the guy from The Hangover.
Yeah.
The Chinese guy from The Hangover. Hilarious guy. I can't pronounce his name. I know it's Ken, whatever. Sorry, Ken. Amazing guy. He doesn't have a line in the movie.
Yeah.
But he's just there, and it's also a callback to the directors having to do with Community and the other show that they do. That like all those little the ancillary characters from those shows, the actors will pop up in the movies.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, because it's them, and then it's the black lady later on in the 70s. She's from one of their shows.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah. So there's like they bring in all these little, like, not little, because he's pretty famous.
Yeah,
But they bring in all these characters, and they play bit parts, like that. Like he has no speaking line in the movie. He's just there, sees Ant-Man on the screen, and then the next thing you see is Ant-Man walking down the street with a wagon, carrying his shit, and he's just looking over his shoulder at him like, son of a bitch, why'd you break into my shit?
Right.
So, yeah, so Ant-Man shows up and gives him this whole spiel about we can fix this and whatever. And that's when they decide to do the whole time travel thing. They go to Tony. That don't work. And then they say, well, if Tony's not going to help us, we got to, who else is going to help us? Like, so who's got the brain to help us? And they immediately cut to a fucking diner. And I about pissed my pants. So, good. What did you think?
Oh, yeah, the Hulk thing that he managed to merge the Hulk and Banner personality together, I thought was hysterical. He's not as smart.
No, they're not in the comic. Well, okay. No, go ahead. Finish. Sorry.
He's clearly not as smart because when they ask him about time travel and quantum stuff, he's like, "Well, I don't know. That's not my thing." I'm like, "No. We've established, Dr. Banner, you have 7 PhDs.
Yeah.
And this has got to be one of them."
Okay, and now, sorry, I'm not trying to step all over you. The part of that I liked was, if you go back to the comics, and I know Eric's like, he's chomping at the bit now. They did this in the comics where they married, Doc Samson melded Bruce Banner, Grey Hulk, and Green Hulk into Professor Hulk. So he was this great, big, giant motherfucker with Bruce Banner's mind, right? So this was their version of doing that. But the thing that I actually loved about it was, and I caught it right there, where he's kind of like, when he was talking, if you remember up until that point, at least Mark Ruffalo's version of Bruce Banner was really kind of skittish and not maybe standoffish, but he was afraid of his own power. So he's always kind of like meek, a little mousy. When he would talk, he was always like hunched over talking, right? Like real quiet, and just that he didn't want to do whatever, except for the point where he tried to scare Scarlett Johansson in Avengers. That was funny. And he's like, "I'm sorry, that was rude." But outside of that, he was always like quiet. And then he did the whole, "Oh, that's my secret, Cap. I'm always angry." And so there was a lot of back and forth there, but he was always quiet. And then you get to where Thor Ragnarok, and you see Hulk has been in charge for a little while, so he's talking like a 3-year-old, and he's more well spoken than he was in Avengers, but he's still a child, right? But then you see, like, Bruce Banner comes out, and there's this whole thing. They go into Infinity War, and you can tell there's counteracting things there, but they have to work something out, right? In this version, what I loved about it was when he said, "We got a lot to work out." You skip to this, and you see him in a diner, and it's a little jarring at first. It's Mark Ruffalo in a Hulk CGI kind of thing, so he's a little bit of a lighter green, and not quite as big, but he's close. Like, he's about as close as the first Avengers Hulk size.
Yeah.
Because the second in Ragnarok, he was bigger.
Yeah.
He was
He's
bigger.
definitely
He was
smaller.
definitely he's definitely smaller.
But he's got
And he's
like,
less green.
much more of Mark's eyes and
Yeah,
eyebrows
the facial
and nose,
features.
and he's got that scruffy 5 o'clock shadow.
Right,
going.
he's got everything going on that Mark Ruffalo has, so Bruce Banner has. But what I liked about it was, to your point, Paul, of, well, it's not really my point of expertise or whatever, and you're like, oh, you've got 7 PhDs. They didn't just blend bodies. The writers here also understood, no, you're going to blend both personalities too. And they blended that childlike Hulk, because when he's sitting there like, no, come on, take a selfie, and hey, no, he wants a picture, yeah, come on, no, I'm dabbing, look, I'm dabbing. Every little thing, like the little jokes, was like hanging out with my son.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, son of a bitch.
Yeah.
So you could see the perfect meld of the personalities too. So that really, like, it got me like, all right, you guys actually paid attention to this shit.
Yeah.
And did it right.
No, it was a cool blend, because he was like, he's not as angry Hulk, right? But he's not as smart Banner. So you have this sort of, right? He's not even as green.
Yeah, he's a perfect blend.
He's a perfect blend, which I thought was cool.
Which actually led to, and we're going to jump around because you say he's not as angry.
That
the
scene
scene
where
in New York
yeah.
when Cap's like, they time jump to New York, and you see the old Hulk running around smashing shit, and then Cap's like, to the new Hulk or the current Hulk, he's like, yeah, Bruce, you probably want to smash some stuff along the way. And he pulls the shirt off. What the hell does he say? Because he's like, it seems so derivative, or what's the word? Because I'm not smart. I'm leaning on you two guys. You're smarter than I am. The word he uses, but it's basically like, it seems so beneath me.
Yeah.
And he throws the shirt on the ground, and he's like, oh, and he punches a cat. Yeah. Not even trying.
Half-heartedly.
And he's like, yeah, oh. And I about peed then too. I was like, oh my god, this is great.
Yeah.
Well, so this is a comic book throwback, right? And they skipped a whole bunch of an arc that happened. Mm-hmm. But the Hulk ultimately
had to do with his
split
father and
Bruce Banner's mind, and he ended up with multiple personality disorder, more or less. And several things were born from that along the arc of that character, which included the Grey Hulk. And then they did Professor Hulk, which was sort of a merger of all those different personalities. And I remember there was a comic, I don't remember which one it was, but it was after they introduced the Professor Hulk idea, and he went into a fight with guns in his hand because he wasn't the angry, smash it up.
Right.
Even though he's a big green guy still, he wasn't the angry, smash it up fellow anymore. So, they did probably maybe a dozen or more comic books about the Professor Hulk persona or whatever, until things changed again. But that's the way it is for Bruce Banner. He changes. There it is.
Oh yeah, cool. Yeah, I mean, there's been Red Hulk and Grey Hulk, and there's a couple different things. I thought the other thing I think about when Tony's sort of mulling over his head, Pepper for the first time to me isn't the worst person. I think through the first couple Avengers movies, she's always been like selfish of Tony in a way that tries to prevent him from being a hero because she wants him. She, for the first time in this movie, was like, okay, go sort of figure this out. Because she knows something really devastating happened and she can't stop him anymore. So when he tells her about it, he's like, I could put a pin in this right now and I could turn this off and we could go to bed. She's like, yeah, but would you rest? And so he works it out. I know they had to get to it. He just seemed to sort of figure it out really quickly. And I get it as a plot device. Like, we don't have a lot of time.
Like, really quickly.
Yeah.
Like a day.
Right.
So he
while working on the kind of the home, whatever home setup he has.
A problem, which is really funny, too, because the movie pays homage to the people in real life that are trying to work out this problem. Yeah. And they've been doing it since the 80s. Probably, right. and they haven't quite figured it out yet. But they pay homage to them, but at the same time, he solves it in a day,
Yeah.
which is like the opposite of paying homage to them.
Right.
But I guess he's a superhero, right? That's what it is.
Yeah.
His mind is part of his what he is.
Yeah, it's part of the, and they've talked about this in comics before. The reason that in comics they've never touched on things like, well, why can't Reed Richards cure cancer? Well, because that would insult sort of the real world scientists working on these things. So we don't do that sort of stuff in comics because it's why the superheroes, when they were writing comics in the 40s, didn't just go win the war, right?
Yeah.
They had Captain America fighting actual Nazis
alongside
alongside U.S. soldiers because it reduced morale if heroes could just go do it.
Yeah.
So I get why, but yeah, and you get as a plot point. Look, we don't have. It's already a 3-hour movie. We don't have 10 minutes to watch you wrestle with this over the course of what, as time goes by, it looks like months.
The fact that it is a 3-hour movie, they could have given 7 minutes to that just to play out the length of time that it really should have taken, even Tony Stark.
Even the first Iron Man, right? Like, he has to go through multiple...
Exactly.
And
they do a legitimate, sort of time-lapse thing there
Yeah.
where you get the concept that it takes a long time.
Yeah, they could have done that. Like,
it was literally
show him-
overnight. and
show
they
him
didn't
over
try
over the course of a couple whatevers.
They really didn't try to change that. It seemed like it happened overnight. They didn't do anything to make it seem like it didn't, right? I guess he used his supercomputer AI to help him, but give me a break. Right. Oh, yeah, that's going to work.
It still doesn't ruin the movie for me, but it's
No,
just
no, it doesn't.
It's one of those points where you're like,
really,
okay.
it's like one of the smallest. We'll get to it because
It's
it happens
super
at the
nitpicky, yeah.
end. It is super nitpicky, and there are other things that break the rules they set in this movie, which come mostly at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot more to complain about than that. It's really not a big deal.
Yeah.
It's cool that they paid homage to real guys to do that because Tony Stark mentions it's named David Deutsch, I think. It's a British theoretical physicist who came up with the idea of marrying quantum theory with the multiverse thing. Right? He says something in there about
he pulls to the thing. Yeah.
Yeah, he says it's a Deutsch principle or whatever. I can't remember what he says. It was something like an offhanded comment, but it's a reference to a real world thing, a real world physicist who came up with the multiverse idea of how time would work in a sense that things would split off.
Yeah.
And I know that's one of the things you wanted to talk
Yeah,
about here. So
I do.
I want to wait for John to reappear.
Well, yeah, we can get it started. They mentioned that the theory of time travel in this movie is different than the theory of time travel in every other movie that's ever talked about time travel. Because I think it's Rhodey goes, well, why don't we just go back and find baby Thanos?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And they said, not only is that incredibly dark, but that's not how it works.
So there's so everybody knows pretty much about the grandfather paradox, right? That's where you go back and you kill your grandfather, and then you were never born, so you couldn't go back and kill your grandfather, right? But that actually works for any time travel scenario, and it could be based just solely on a person's motivation, right? So I could want to go back in time to, I don't know, make sure John didn't want to pee right now so we could have this conversation sooner. But the fact that I went back in time to change everything to make that happen means that I had no reason to go back and change it, so everything happened, right? So did it?
Yeah.
Did I go back? Did that happen? So this concept of breaking those paradoxes is actually, I like it. It's interesting because they did it in a way where they weren't changing the timeline. They were taking something out of another timeline, so to speak, bringing it into theirs, fixing a problem, and putting it back.
Yeah.
Right? And that's a really cool way to do it, and it's a way to do it so that you can't use time travel in the future to fix everything, because it's not how it's going to work. Right? You can't change what happened. So I like it. I think it's really cool.
And we're talking about the time travel question that I asked.
I just got back, so
in our notes, like they talk about how Rhodey says, "Well, why can't we just go back and kill baby Thanos?" And they say, "That's not how it works."
That's the baby Hitler question.
Yeah.
I laughed so hard at that.
And I like it. It's also a convenient plot point, right? Like, because if you could just go kill baby Thanos, this is not a 3-hour movie. This is a 30-minute exercise. And so it's more interesting this way, but it is a better set of rules. And
plus, they already did that to us once in the very beginning of the fucking movie when they killed him. We're like, all right, now what are we doing for 3 hours?
Yeah, but they didn't kill baby Thanos. They killed
him. I know.
After the fact.
Step over my bit again.
Yes. But, it makes it certainly a more interesting thing to do. And then you have to go put the stones back. And it's the reason you can't just go back and bring Black Widow back.
And it makes it more
Right.
complicated.
So now, did we touch on the fact that it? Sorry, you and I before Paul got here, we talked about the whole time travel concept and whatever. And did you guys already discuss how everyone questioned, how does their time travel work? And I said I heard that it kind of leans more toward like the real sciencey, the nerds that kind of.
Yeah, so I did touch on this.
Okay.
I talked about David Deutsch and the
All right,
British
okay.
physicist
If you did it,
who
it's
came up
fine.
with
We
the
also
concept.
talked about how Tony Stark figures out time travel in like
A day, yeah.
a night on his own.
Yeah, a night.
Yeah, I
It
might
is a
have had a little problem with that, but okay, we're gonna, it's Tony Stark. So obviously, again,
We said the same thing. Like,
So-
after 3 hours, you have to cut something out of there.
Yeah.
So he was working on it a little bit.
So, I'm going to be Captain Tangent for a minute, but time travel concept is...
Sorry, can I jump on
Yeah,
that one
sure.
real quick? The Tony Stark thing, because I did hear that too. How the fuck did he figure that out in like a minute? The thing that made it right in my head, and well, of course, in this show, that's all that matters, is just like when they started working with Hulk, Scott had Hank Pym's notes and information, so I'm sure he gave it to Tony too. So at least maybe he had a jump on some of what, you know what I mean? That's how I made it okay with me, where, yeah, it happened really quick. Like, I just figured out time travel. It was, to me, like, yeah, it seemed that way to most people in the movies, but to me, I was like, all right, he took Pym's shit that he was working on in the quantum realm, and then, because he's Tony Stark, he's done this time and time again, taken something that somebody did and said, well, why don't do this? Now, like, had it been Shuri, that would have happened even 10 minutes before
he
that.
would have done it 20 minutes sooner. Yeah.
Yeah, same thing she did with Vision. Well,
Yeah.
why didn't you just do this individually? They were like, we didn't think of it
Yeah.
because she's smarter than he is. So I that's how I kind of made it okay in my head. Was, well, he didn't just do it on his own. He took everything that was before him with Pym because Scott Lang had all that shit with him. I'm sure he went through all that. He grabbed
He had
whatever
hard
could.
drives full of stuff.
Yeah, he just
terabytes of information.
Again, because what was his thing? I need to get this to somebody who can help me because he had a theory, but he couldn't put it into place.
Right.
So he brings it to the Avengers. The Avengers bring it to the Hulk. Hulk goes, "Nah, I might have dumbed myself down for this,
Yeah.
so I can't do this." And then they go, Tony comes back and says, "No, we can do this because I figured it out because you didn't do this part." Right? So now we're back up. Sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry, my tangent was just going to be, I told you guys last time I've watched like a million Netflix movies and stuff.
Dun, dun,
And
dun.
I've been off the top 100 yet. I've been down the top 100 or whatever. I've also branched off into like subgenres, right? And time travel is one of them I did. I watched like top 20 movies on time travel. There's this movie called Primer, really low budget, but really cool movie. You guys should watch it. It explores the ideas of of those time travel paradoxes, right? And it's not terrible. I mean, there's no cool special effects or anything, but the acting is decent.
You're talking to the guy who's gone through like C and D list zombie movies just to find something decent. So yeah.
So Primer, but so most of the movies follow that sort of, you can go back in time and change something, and then things happen in the future, and it's really totally unrealistic. And then anybody can do anything at any time, and they don't really explore the paradoxes at all. And this gets rid of it, which I like.
Right.
It doesn't exist anymore. You don't have to worry about it, because what happens is there's some other reality created if you mess something up, and that's not part of your world, and you'll never see it, and it doesn't matter.
Right.
Although to the ancient one, it apparently mattered, which I actually didn't
Well, because
get.
she could see everything.
I didn't get why she cared, though. Why does she care if there's a branch off of a timeline and something different happens?
Well, and I'm sure
What difference does it
I
make to her?
think that's probably got something to do with like her role in the multiverse, because in Doctor Strange they already established that she watches multiverses, and she's getting ready to groom Strange for doing that too. I'm sure branching off alternate timelines has an effect on her job. It's kind of like, somebody.
I'm sure it does, but the thing is that those multiverses couldn't exist unless those decision points happened and changes were made. So why is she stopping this one?
Well, and she knew that he was 5 years too early. Like she
Right.
says,
when he said what? Yeah,
he
'cause
says,
she
I'm
already
looking
knew
for Stephen Strange.
coming.
Nope. Yeah.
Yeah,
you're
she
5 years
already
too
knew
early.
Strange is coming because she's almost omnipotent, right?
Yeah.
So, but like, all right, Eric, more to your point on why is she worried about that being a divergent? Maybe it's just one of those kind of like that internet meme where if you do your job well enough, someone's going to bring you more shit to do. Maybe it's that. Like, maybe, okay, you understand what I'm saying? Maybe it's, all right, I'm already watching all these things. You're going to make more timelines for me to watch. No. You're not doing things according to the plan, so no, you have to stop.
I'm not going to harp on this point, okay?
I want blue collar, sorry.
Just another. They are still changing their reality. I understand they're doing it in a different way, and they're grabbing stones from another time. They've still changed the reality. So if that's her objection to this, bullshit.
Yeah, because we're briefly into this, and we're an hour and a half in, and we're going. No, we're going to keep going. Don't you look at that shit. We're going to go now because there are a few issues with this time thing, and we're probably going to have to branch off into an entirely separate episode again. So you might want to write that shit down too. Write all your problems down.
We're going to go back in time and erase the time when you screwed up the recording.
Thanks.
Yes.
Yeah, well,
I was
great.
going to make that joke earlier, but I felt like it wasn't a good.
Yeah, it's okay. No, it's okay. Just make it. Fuck it.
Yeah.
You know how many jokes we made that just fall flat? It's kind of like
sometimes they work.
But they had all the context.
My joking is a cluster. My joke is a cluster bomb kind of thing. I just drop whatever happens and whatever hits, and we'll see what happens.
So honestly, all the time travel thing, I'm going to jump forward one more time, but I only have one problem with the rules they set up, and that's with the Captain America ending. And we can wait to talk about that.
Okay.
But he broke their own rules.
I have a few things in there that I want to discuss for possibilities and questions and whatever.
Did they say that one of their rules is you can't talk to your past self?
No, they didn't. And
in
fact,
no, they did say
they
something
might have
about
said that, but that's
not
pointless because what did Nebula do?
And that, see, yeah, because I had a problem with that too. Because, well, again, going by the, well, are you judging all this on, Back to the Future and this and that, whatever? Yeah. Well, yeah, but she fucking shoots her younger self and she's still there. And I was like, now there are...
Because that's the rules that the Ancient One established when she told him how the timeline works. If you change something that's already happened, you don't actually change it. What you create is another universe where everything happens... So she doesn't
kill herself.
Based on that decision you made.
She kills that nebula.
She kills that nebula.
Right,
and that nebula... There was a thing Banner said that was like some sort of like a really weird phrase or something. He's like, your present becomes the
your
past,
present becomes the past, and the past becomes the future.
Yeah. Right? But that is how it is because that is how it is in this time travel setup.
Yeah.
Because
so
when you change something dramatic like that, you've just changed it for that person, not for yourself. Even if that person is yourself 10 years ago.
Okay. Okay. All right. God, thank God I'm drinking. It's fun. Yeah, this hurts. This is beyond my ken. But okay, cool. We'll go with that. Because any other time that, you kill your younger self, then you just pop out of existence or whatever.
Well, that's how they broke the paradox.
Even there, but even to me, like, you've explained it so it makes more sense. Maybe. Yes, I'll just say, okay, yes. And I agree with you because I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about anymore. But... to the point of, in some comics I've seen where, like, when they go to travel through time, they're displaced in time, like an exiles kind of thing, right? Where even if they kill their younger selves, nothing's going to happen to them because they're not in the timeline. However, the timeline can get fucked up, which is to that point, but maybe not really.
I think
not
the
exactly.
way it is that the timeline that happened already happened. And when they went back in time and changed something, it just created a new timeline. And whatever happened in that timeline happened. But it wasn't related to the original.
Okay. All right. So there you go. So then maybe we'll shelve the time travel rules.
But the thing is...
So there's a universe where all the people are still gone.
Yeah.
Half the people are still gone.
Oh, yeah.
We just don't live in that universe.
In theory, yeah.
In that movie, they just don't live in that universe anymore.
Right.
So, but the thing is, the Ancient One wants to make a complaint about this and say you have to put the stones back when they happened, right? But Nebula kills her old self. That creates a timeline. All of the Avengers kill Thanos. That creates another timeline. That didn't happen originally. And she doesn't bitch about those.
Loki takes off with the Tesseract.
Yes, and that creates...
That's in my questions for after the movie.
And then Captain America, which we can wait till the end.
Yeah, let's wait because I have a whole bunch of shit. I have a whole... I have because, I'm apparently the fucking comic relief in this fucking thing. I've got a whole scenario there with the cap shit we're going to get into. So, all right, so moving on to the time shit. What's next? Okay, did we do Fat Thor? Because holy shit,
Fat Thor's my favorite.
Beer bod Thor.
Fat
Can we
Thor's my
call
favorite.
him Lebowski Thor? Because
Yeah,
that was
Lebowski
totally
Thor.
That was
well
awesome.
enough.
And
That was
he
awesome.
legit like dresses just like Lebowski,
Yeah.
and
It was a
Tony
dead
calls him
ringer
out
if
on
you were
it.
trying to do it.
Yeah.
Tony calls him
Seriously.
out on it.
Yeah.
Like you're swaying left, Lebowski.
Yeah.
Yeah, he does the whole thing, and it was funny too because I kind of leaned over to Heather and I was like, "Now I'm Thor." So there you go. That's for you. But yeah, she's just shaking her head. You're an asshole. So yeah, the
That
dad
storyline is awesome.
and there was a part where throughout that movie, I'm glad they didn't do it, but I thought that there would be a part where when he finally, came to power and summoned lightning or whatever, he would go back to the abs and the this and that, whatever. And they never did it. And I was like, all right, cool. So you have to earn it. You have to go back. You have to actually do the workout, whatever you got to do.
I thought there'd be a training montage.
Yeah.
I thought there'd be like Thor's gonna
Rocky.
we'd go back
Getting
and see Thor's doing
stronger.
push-ups or something.
For me, he's a
Right.
god, and he could just do it at
Well, I would have been
the
okay
snap
with
of
it
a
too.
finger, and
Yeah, I would have thought like
it
once
would
you
have
come
been
out
fine
of it,
if they used it for 5 minutes of comic relief.
maybe the minute maybe when he's talking to his mother and his mother's like, you need to snap out of it, and then and he's back to his old self, whatever. I mean, I would have taken it, but the fact that they didn't do it and they're like, no, this is him, and he's just gonna earn it later. Okay, cool, because later it'll come, so we'll see that later. So he goes back in time with Rocket, and he can't do his shit. Oh my god, that made me laugh. He cannot just do whatever he's got to do.
Yeah.
So Rocket goes, because again, have we already established now that we're all going back in time, different teams to take the Infinity Stone.
We weren't going through it sort of.
Okay.
We looked at the
So-
clck like we can't go through a 3-hour movie sort of.
Yeah, this is not gonna be all right. So we're going through the stones, and everyone's teams are gonna try to take the stones back, right? So you have that team goes and tries to get the reality stone. Skip ahead. All these scenes were really well, right? But they were really well made. We can jump on them later on. This is going to be a two-parter. We can really delve into some of the scenes, our favorite parts of the scenes next week, maybe. But all right, skip ahead from the time travel shit. They get the stones. They build their own gauntlet. They try to snap everything back by Hulk. That was another theory, and I think we talked about it too. Way back when, someone said that they thought Hulk was going to try to use the gauntlet and he was going to lose an arm. Remember? We talked about that briefly? No? Okay, never mind. Well, I was talking to somebody else. Sorry. There's that other podcast I don't do.
Right.
Yeah. It's just a random conversation because this is all I talk about in my life. There were theories about this shit that Hulk was going to lose his arm, and came close. So I like the, I guess because we're fast forwarding through this thing. Black Widow dies. So in the whole thing where Hulk, they build this Infinity Gauntlet, they got all the gems. Hulk wears it because he's the one that is powerful enough to try to take it on. When he does the snap, he admits later, I tried to bring her back, and apparently that wasn't going to happen because, go back and watch the movie, and we'll expand on it later on. There's reasons why that can't happen. So he's just effed up, and it didn't work. So then they get into, but it did work though. The rest of his snap worked.
Yep.
Everything, because the plan was, we're going to snap everybody back into existence after that 5 years.
Although in theory, it could, because you went back and got past Gamora and brought her forward, because she shows up in the battle, even though she sacrificed in Infinity War to get the Soul Stone in the first place. You could go back and Cap could have gotten past Black Widow and brought her forward.
Yes, and that's two different arguments, because somebody else brought that up, if, in another podcast I was to do, or a YouTube thing, questions on Endgame. Well, if Gamora can come back, why couldn't Black Widow come back?
Right.
But that's got nothing to do with the snap. That has to do with the Infinity Stones. And we'll get on that in a second, because I even have a plausible theory later. So Hulk snaps. Everybody's supposedly coming back. I don't think they even really they didn't really totally understand it. They saw birds and shit, right? So okay, things are coming back. So
because half of
we did
everything was
something.
about like
Yeah.
half of dogs and cats and birds and bugs and whatever.
Yeah, was that in the comics, by the way? I think half of sentient life disappeared, not
Well, I mean,
like
dogs and
animals
cats are-
randomness. I don't know, maybe it was. I'm just trying to remember. It's
Well,
a long
because
time
they
ago.
also questioned that because they were like, well, half the trees weren't gone. Well, they're not- okay, yeah, I get it. Sorry. Jesus. Thanks. But yeah, so appreciate you slowing us up. But yeah, same argument that I've heard on this one, just the movie alone. It's a vague thing. I just half of sentient life and maybe half of any life that has a remote thought. Food, dog, okay, dead, whatever. But yeah, the birds come back. Okay, cool. So, but the trees still there. Fine, whatever. You don't see anything else happening out of that because they roll right into all the other shit that's going on. Because now Thanos shows up and Hulk's like all fucked up, going, "I tried to bring her back. And it didn't work. Get it? Okay, cool." So now you jump into the last arc of the movie.
The battle scene.
You get into the battle scene, right? And so you have your core Avengers that have been there through this whole movie. They're fighting Thanos, and they're getting the shit kicked out of them. You know, they get a few good shots off, but they're getting the shit kicked out of them. And Cap gets his ass whooped, and then Thor comes in with. We'll go back to this later on in another episode. He's got both Stormbreaker and Mjolnir, which we might have your deviant timelines. That Thor's fucked, but okay, whatever. So he's got both. And he comes at Thanos, whooping his ass for a little while. Thanos gets up a hand, starts beating his ass. He's about to kill him. And this, flat out, as far as your my dad sentimental moment, whatever, my holy shit, this is awesome moment out of this whole movie. Thor about to get killed by Thanos with Stormbreaker, and you see Mjolnir just kind of budge a little bit, and then flies across the damn screen, cracks Thanos in the head, and the first thought you get, and everybody got, was Thor is badass. And then that fucking hammer goes flying back across the screen, and Cap catches it.
Yep. I had a nerdgasm.
Yeah.
Everybody in the theater lost their shit.
Yep.
And I called that too, because from Age of Ultron, when he budged it. And I'm like, they're gonna call that back. And Thor commented, he's like, I knew it.
Yeah.
I knew it. And he's all excited. So then the two of them start beating the piss out of him with both hammers. And again, one of the funniest moments in the fucking movie was when they start beating the hell out of him, a la the Civil War beatdown of Iron Man with the shield. They're trading hammers back and forth, beating the shit out of him, and then they stop, and Thor's got Mjolnir and Cap's got Stormbreaker, and he goes, No, you take a little one.
Yeah.
I was like, way to mansplain it.
Yep.
That was awesome. So, all right, go ahead. You guys go.
Now, battle scene was great, and you didn't realize, I didn't at least, it's not a real action movie. There's a couple fight scenes, right? But like until you get to that big battle when kind of all of the Thanos' guys, all those creatures and whatever start happening, until he destroys Avengers HQ, it's not really like a massive action movie. It's really good, and there are some scenes, but that's when sort of the action and the battles happen. Yeah. And then Falcon shows up, and all the Doctor Strange sort of portals open, and everybody jumps to the fight. And
that was good. You got anything before that?
No, I would just say though that the introduction or the reintroduction of all the heroes, it is hilarious to me that took like 90 seconds of screen time with no talking or anything, just popping through the portals.
Yeah. All right. So
and it's like everybody. It's like the roll call of Yeah,
and that was one of the. Again, I've always said, if you can hit me just the right way at the right moment, get me like, all right, like as I guess the millennials say, you get me right in the feels. If you hit me the right way, I'm man enough to be like, yeah, you got me. Yeah. When Cap stands up, and that's the only other scene in the trailers when you see him pulling the shield off, like, F it, I'm done, and I'm just gonna fight. And
well, there's only 2/3 of it left or a third of it
Yeah,
left.
yeah. Thanos has destroyed the shield, so he drops the shield, and he's standing there. And right there, that one epic shot of him standing across from all of Thanos' horde, I want to get that as a screensaver. Like, that is just epic, right? Just him standing there, like, whatever, because he's always said, even if one of us stands up, because that was from the Infinity Gauntlet comic. Even if one of us is standing in front of you, you won't win. So he did it without saying it in the movie. So there you go. Hey, Narragansett. So he's standing there, and he's ready to fight, and you just know in your heart, this is it. Cap's dead. And you hear his comm go off, Cap, and then he says, it's Sam. When he said, on your left, I was like, I had that moment, like, damn it, that one hit. I was like, wow, that was really cool. And then the portal opens up, and they all and he don't even come out. Like, everybody else comes out, and then he comes flying through. But that one moment, I was like, yeah, all right, you fuckers, you got me. Yeah. You did good. So, and then like you said, it takes a whole minute and a half for all of them to come out, and then they proceed to start whipping everybody's ass. And then we'll get down to one of Paul's points,
and then
Scarlet Witch is fighting Thanos.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, I kept saying, you're going to see how badass she is.
Yeah, she was taking it to him.
So, yeah, and I don't think that's not over. You're going to see how badass she is in this future film series.
Yeah. There's an interesting scene, and it's one of the things that I noticed when it happened. My wife pointed it out to me later. There's kind of this girl power scene where I think it's Captain Marvel, right? She's about to go hit it.
Scarlet Witch.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because that's why I was trying to feed you into it. It was when Scarlet Witch was fighting him, and then he was like, you're foolish for coming at me alone.
Yeah, and then all the other female characters.
Yeah. You hear she's not alone.
Yeah, and then they do this sort of roll call of all the female characters. Even what's her name from Guardians with the antenna, who is an empath, and that's seemingly her only power. So she would be hopelessly outgunned in that moment.
Yeah.
But they're all there.
She'd be in a corner somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just a second of a scene. And look, I'm all for girl power and femininity and stuff. It is, but it's unusual in a battlefield to kind of have everybody form up in one gender group, right? And go like, okay, ladies, everybody ready? They were in different places all over the battlefield.
And that's not even the only thing wrong with it. So I'm going to go on a whole side note here, but before I do, when she entered this battle, how did she come in? She came out of freaking nowhere. She flew through the bow and the stern of Thanos' ship and destroyed the whole thing by herself.
That was Captain Marvel.
Captain Marvel,
Yeah, Captain Marvel. And now you're going to tell me that there's a problem with Captain Marvel running across the field?
Right.
She needs some support?
Right.
Really?
She needs backup.
With what?
Well, I think
what?
when they said... Was it Captain Marvel that he was talking shit to?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, because I could have sworn it was
Scarlet
that's
why
Witch.
I'm like, why Scarlet Witch? No, it's Captain Marvel. Because she's
Captain
the one
Marvel has the gauntlet.
Oh, right.
She's
Yes. Yeah, because he takes the Power Stone and punches her in her face.
Yeah.
I forgot that part.
Yeah.
And right, like...
Put her in place.
In any fight, even if someone's hopeless, even if someone's powerful, like, you're going to get hit. So she gets hit, and then she comes back, but he said, you're...
Yeah, see, I remember
it's futile to take me on by
incorrectly.
yourself, or however he says it.
I gotta go watch it again because I really thought he was talking to Scarlet Witch at that point.
You should have went with me on Monday.
Yeah, apparently.
But I'm like, she's the least of them out there, including Thanos, who needs backup, let alone for it to just be the women.
Well,
maybe that was their
and of all the characters that
had
had no use of a backup, honestly.
Right.
Maybe it was that another way for them to play her down against Thanos a little bit too.
Yeah, but I'm going to go back to this in that they changed the origin story and they made her more powerful than she ever was. So why even do this?
It was just, I think it was...
And I know the answer.
It was sort of a shout out to
Wonder Woman. That's what it is. The answer is Wonder Woman. They established a sort of girl power theme that...
Well, prior to this...
They got to meet up now.
Prior to this, there are... I think we've had this conversation, or I've had it somewhere, where I've heard them talking about Tessa Thompson has said in interviews where she went with a handful of those girls to Kevin Feige and was like, you guys have this A-Force comic book where there's like a lot of the women of, the Avengers and the X-Men or whatever. We'd love to do that in the movies. We'd like to make a woman-centric, female-centric MCU movie. And he was like, hey, I'm all for that. That's what that was. That was like, here's your woman moment. And, okay, wait. Like Paul said, all right, well, not quite like Paul said. Yeah, I'm all for women's movement, whatever. You know what, dude, sorry. I spent 20 friggin' years in the military. When you take a military standpoint, we're all equal. When you work for it. Work for it, you can be equal. Women are equal, men are equal, black, white, they're all equal. Just stop. It's a lot of bullshit in this country. Now we're going way off into the political tangent and all that.
No, you're taking us there. I didn't.
Yeah, I know. No, I did. I am. This is for the other podcast, but there's a lot of bullshit that I hear a lot of these assholes that listen to our podcast complain about. Okay, and that's why you get scenes like this. You don't need them. Was it cool to see, heroes getting together? Yeah, you didn't need that one specific scene. Eric said great. He said the girl power scene was absolutely cringeworthy, and then he went asterisk was cringeworthy. And I said, no, you were right the first time. It was absolutely cringeworthy. It's always absolutely cringeworthy.
So
you don't have to do it.
I will say, as three white guys sitting around a table, like that scene doesn't speak to us. But if you're a woman in the theater, maybe it does.
And I've heard them.
That's fine. It's just you're watching this epic fight scene that you would take the time to sort of have to assemble all of one subset of characters.
It's not
to
realistic.
Do a thing. It's
not realistic.
That weren't all together.
So,
like all the Wakandans came in together to the fight because they all came in through the portal together, right?
Sure.
So that makes sense that they were all together. You would have had to assemble.
All these women just suddenly showed up, and they were all right.
Yeah. That's all I'll say is that it was gratuitous because of the way that they built up to that moment, which was completely forced, and it had to happen within that 30 seconds before she ran across the battlefield. Right?
Yeah, and
it wasn't
and that was the point
in the same place. It wasn't. There was nothing like that.
Which is always it's always gone to my point, which because I'm the antagonist of this shit. But like Paul just said, as three white guys, whatever. I get it, but on the same note, I'm also just sick and tired of seeing everybody and their mother apologize for being white. Just fuck that. If you tell me the story the right way, I've said this time and again, even when we've talked about, I have a big problem with changing gender or race or whatever, just gratuitously, just to do it. No, if it fits the story and you do it right, do it. This scene was literally out of nowhere.
Yep.
It was just here. This is what we're going to do because we're pandering. Now you're pandering. You have spent 22 fucking movies doing this. As much as I argued against the trolls on the Captain Marvel shit because they were all complaining that was pandering, no, that fucking scene right now, that was pandering, okay? Captain Marvel was not pandering. This scene was. And that's my problem. Right? You don't have to do it. Yeah. You can find a creative way to do all these things. You can tell your A4 story. Fuck, they did it in the comics when I was a kid. They did Atlantis Attacks when all the guys were freaking brainwashed and the women had to come save their ass. Men were useless and the women came to save them. That was 30 fucking years ago.
I mean, Captain Marvel saves, like Thanos gets the gauntlet. He's about to snap until she grabs his hand and holds it down. Like, she saves it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My one problem was
Stark,
that one scene was just a pain in the ass.
You just sort of didn't need it.
So I was sure she was going to do more from the beginning before I ever sat down.
I was too.
So I was a little irritated about that, and that made that whole socio-political thing feel like a forced few minutes of a scene for no reason.
Yeah, like I said,
you could have gave her. You already did, right? I'm not going to say that they changed the storyline again, but they did change the storyline. So, but they built her up to be the super powered, like better than anybody superhero, and then her role was there, but it wasn't actually significant, really. And I feel like they missed the boat on that.
Yeah, I would agree. On the one hand, like I said earlier in this episode, I appreciated the fact that they didn't make her just, how do you say it, just The God in the Machine. They
Yeah.
didn't make her the save all of everything.
Right.
Okay, I like that.
Well,
But they
if
could
you
have
think
done her
about-
more to do. Could have given her more to do.
If you think about the way the movie ends, and we can talk about this in a second, the ending, it's not a sacrifice if she gets the gauntlet and does what Tony did, right? She's powerful enough to handle it. Like, it doesn't take her life. So that's not a... It's not a sacrifice in the DC comics for Superman to fly into a burning building and save somebody because he can't be hurt by the fire, right?
Yeah,
that's not a
it
sacrifice.
means more for Batman or somebody else.
Correct.
To do it, right. Which goes back to what we've talked about before, and I said that when they started making the Captain Marvel movie, I was afraid that she was going to fix everything, and you had this entire series that led up to this moment.
Which is hurry up and Captain Marvel get here.
Just for her to, yeah. And you said it too.
Right. So it's not for her to get the gauntlet at the end and snap Thanos out of existence and those guys to dust. Yeah. Right, because it's not a sacrifice. She handles it no problem. It takes Tony, like, that ending isn't, if that were the ending, that's not very satisfying. Like, everybody wins, hooray, nobody sacrificed other than that to have to get the Soul Stone. We end up with one casualty. You're like, oh, okay, I guess.
Right.
Yeah.
So now while we're missing somebody, we can we'll just recap, go back to, because sometimes I go off on my rant when I start getting pissed at society. Again, we go back to, like Paula said, I'm not saying that, I'm not all for, women's rights and this and that. I believe in them. But what I believe is that they're there a lot more than some members of society make it seem like they're there. So you have this area where they do things like this, where we have to cater to this demographic because they're going to make a stink out of it. But I've been around all over the place long enough to know that it's not true. You know what I mean? Like, my wife came up with the Navy. She should be the first one to be like, this is some dumb shit. Why the hell are you pandering to this? So it's not...
My wife noticed it, and she's like, why did they do that?
Right.
And
so I don't want to come across as the male chauvinist or whatever, which is, I'm sure at some point somebody's going to go back in 10 years and listen to this and be like, holy shit, what did you say?
Yeah.
It's not a male chauvinist thing. It's if you can tell the story the proper way and give me a good story, like I said, I went and defended Captain Marvel against all of these assholes a month ago when everyone was against her. I love that story. If you tell it the right way, you don't have to pander. I'm spitting all over the place now.
When a scene stands out, it's so sort of forced, to Eric's point. It's so forced that everyone notices it. It's a problem.
So I talked about this last week, but there's an immersion factor to films, and that's one of the things that'll break it. Is a forced scene like that where you feel like you're taken out of it, like, oh, okay, I'll just wait until it's over.
Right. Yeah, and that's my problem from a storytelling standpoint. I am the first one to combat anybody for equal rights for everybody. But let's legitimately say, okay, let's be equal. And let's legitimately look at the scenario. For the most part, we're equal. There is some dumb shit going on, and that needs to be stomped out, and it can be stomped out. But realistically, not this way. This is not doing anything but pandering, and it's ridiculous. So that one scene really irritated the hell out of me. But outside of that, I mean, cool.
Let's talk ending.
Ending. All right. Who wants to take it?
I'll start this one.
Yeah.
So, for the comics, it's all wrong, but for the Marvel Cinematic Universe, it's perfect. So Iron Man started everything, and Iron Man effectively ended everything. Right.
Yeah.
And I know that this has more to do with contracts and licensing than anything else, but actually, it worked perfect. Mm-hmm. It was great. There was no other person that could have ended this better than Iron Man.
In that scene, they're wrestling for the gauntlet. It looks like Thanos wins the fight. He goes to snap again. Nothing happens. He looks at the gauntlet. There's nothing there. And you cut to Tony, and he holds up his hand. And because Tony is Tony, he's put a failsafe in where once he wrestles with him, he magnetically or whatever pulled the stones to himself, and he's got them on his gauntlet, on his Iron Man gauntlet.
Yeah.
So now he's got the gauntlet on his armor,
Right.
which was another thing they talked about. Oh, maybe he's going to make like a god armor or whatever, and he essentially did. He's got the gauntlet on his shit, and Thanos is sitting there pretty much with his dick in his hand.
Yeah.
So there you go.
So
Yeah.
there was a thing there that happened for me. So you know Thanos' line is "I am inevitable," right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah, because the scene happens kind of quick.
Yeah.
Because you don't see that he's got or he does or doesn't have the gems.
Yep.
He's got the gauntlet, and he says, "I am inevitable."
Yeah.
And
So-
he snaps his fingers, and then nothing happens, and it cuts to Tony.
So, and then there was this moment of anticipation for me that was so long when Tony Stark says, "I am," and you don't know
Yeah,
what's going to
right,
come out of his
yeah.
mouth. And I'm sure it's one of those things where if you would go back and watch it, it would happen in a second. But at that moment,
It
there was
does
like
happen in
a
second.
suspense of time, and I was like, "Oh, what the fuck is he
Right.
going to say?
Yeah.
What's he going to say?" You know?
Yeah,
And
because
he's
there
like,
was
"I am
a
Iron Man."
moment
And that
there where he was
actually-
like, "Yeah, sorry, go. I'm stepping over you now."
"No, that's okay." But "I am Iron Man" is actually a great
The
answer to that.
Perfect way.
It's
to
too
end.
simple, but it's also just too perfect.
Because I really thought the snarky Tony Stark was going to say something like, "And I am so sick of your shit," or something like that, right?
And him dying fortifies that, right? Because he wasn't Tony Stark in that moment.
No,
He was the
straight up Iron
superhero
Man.
persona
Yeah.
that gave up everything always.
He was the one, just like Cap called him out. He was the one that laid himself on the wire. He did everything he was supposed to do. He did it, and he, again, like you said, for this universe, again, because you have your comic book nuts like us who are like, yeah, that has nothing to do with the comics. But if you could take your, like, I love my Elseworld stories and my, your different takes on stories. If you take this as the movie universe and you go, all right, this shit started with Tony Stark and Iron Man, and at least this story arc ends with him saving everything. It's perfect.
in a sacrificial moment, though.
Yeah,
That's what
it's
makes
a perfect swan song.
Because it's
like
the
you
one
said,
thing he never wanted to do, really.
Yep.
It was the stipulation he set before this moment. Everything for me is
Time
going to
and-
be the
time
way
and
it's
again,
always been.
time and again, he said,
I will do this to save you, but I am not losing
Right to
anything.
this point, I would
And
do
now-
everything up to, but not including that.
And
Right.
then he lost everything. That
Yeah.
was it. That was the end.
And
Like I
he
said
knew
earlier-
it before he snapped his fingers, but
yeah, and like I said earlier in the episode, to the point of if you go back to the writing, Cap calls him out in Avengers. You're not the guy that just lay on the line.
Yeah.
He's like, I just have the line.
But
So
what's
he would
al-
always find a way out, and he
The-
doesn't. He
the
just
other really
doesn't.
cool thing is that there's a part of the battle where it's not going well. When he turns to Doctor Strange and says, "Okay, you saw 14 million endings. Is this is the one?"
This
Right?
is it.
And
He
he
says,
says,
"If I
"If I
tell
tell
you,
you,
it's
it
gonna
won't happen."
Yeah, because
Yeah.
even
'Cause he
even
knew-
there, he knows Tony.
Because he says, if it's going to call your sacrifice, Tony
Yeah.
would have said, "No, I'm not doing it."
But then it happens, right? There's actually a moment. You guys,
He looks at
remember
Star.
seeing
He
that?
looks
He
at
looks at
Strange.
him,
Yeah.
and
Strange
Strange
as he's
just
doing his spell, and
Yeah.
he holds up the one
one
finger.
finger,
like,
right?
This
Like,
is it.
This
now.
is it.
You
This
have
is
to
the
do it.
one. You
Yeah.
know what's supposed to happen.
And Tony does it, and
Yeah.
it was epic. And that whole scene. Now rewind real quick to the whole when all the heroes come back and like Peter comes back and sees him. He's
Yeah.
like, Mr. Stark, we turned to dust and then blah 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 whatever, and he hugs him.
Yeah.
That was another one of those like, wow, that was really cool.
And the kid,
you know?
tell
He's
how
just
it's
like,
so good at that. He's
oh,
like,
this
this is nice.
This is nice. Yeah. And then you fast forward back to because that kid is another one. He's an amazing actor.
Yeah.
From the Mr. Stark, I don't feel so good
Yeah.
in Infinity War to when he comes back and he's talking to him, and then throughout the whole fight, where that poor bastard got his ass kicked. By the way, go running around with that
Yeah.
gauntlet, he got his ass kicked, and he never. Hey, he's plucky. He runs around. But then when after Stark says, "I am Iron Man," and snaps his fingers, and you can see, dude, he acted the shit out of that scene. He's dying, and you can tell.
Yeah.
And Peter comes and he's talking to him like, we won, whatever. He's trying to talk to him, and you can see the emotion in his voice. That kid is amazing. The only thing to me that was more amazing was Gwyneth Paltrow, Pepper. When she steps in, she doesn't it's not like, okay, no, this is my moment with my man here. she takes him and gently moves him aside, like, no, hang on, she's always in that like caretaker role. She moves him gently to the side, and then she sits next to Tony, and she doesn't cry. She tells him it's okay.
And she doesn't do the "I told you so." It's the first time I didn't dislike Pepper Potts.
Yeah,
because in all the other movies, I've always thought she was the worst.
Yeah,
because she prevents him from being a hero, or tries to prevent him from being a hero, over and over again, selfishly. And this is the first time she's not.
She's always worried about him, whatever. They played that up. And then,
this is the first time where she's not, and she didn't like. I told you not. She was very like, no, you did it.
To be fair, it's out of sequence, but this is the first movie where she takes on a superhero persona. She takes on Rescue, right?
Yeah.
From the comics, Rescue.
Yeah, which was amazing.
It's the wrong place, it's the wrong time, but this is the way they decided to introduce it. So,
which was really cool.
It's okay for her to give Tony the extra mile now because she's adopted that selfless persona.
She can kind of carry on for him. I like that where she gave him that moment of, no, this is what you've been working for, and you did it. You can rest. Mm-hmm. And then once he fades and the light in his arc reactor fades, then she cries. Mm-hmm. She gives him she's there with him up until, and then she breaks down. Yeah. And then you fade into the rest of the shit, because we're going to wrap this up. So you fade into your funeral scene, where I know Paul already kind of like threw some shit out there.
Yeah, so it's interesting as they pan through everybody at the funeral scene. The actors are standing. They have everyone blocked in a way that they are with their castmates of whatever film they're in, right? So you turn.
So me?
You turn and
who's gonna go home?
The Ant-Man and the Wasp casts are all together.
A button on my watch to find my phone. I hit it on accident.
Oh, nice.
They're all together. Black Panther and his crew are together. Captain Marvel's by herself. Nick Fury's by himself. And then there's a kid who I didn't recognize.
Did you figure out who it was? Because I figured out who it was.
I had to look it up.
I don't know who it is.
It was the kid from Iron Man 3.
That was going to be my guess.
Yeah.
But they're years apart at this point, so how do you know that's even true? That was not the same. That was the actual same actor.
It's the actor.
Same actor.
Oh, it really is?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought that was...
I would not have known that.
I feel like it was much younger.
Yeah, I wound up looking it up, too.
I had to look it up.
I recognized him, but I didn't. I was like, God, that looks so familiar.
I imagine that there are a ton of us guys that were like, okay, I get who everybody is. Who's that? And somebody had to figure it out.
I recognized him enough where I was like, I know him from the MCU, but I don't know who the hell he is.
But he's a kid in Iron Man 3, and he looks 18-ish in this.
But yeah, it's just one of those where like anybody who Tony Stark really touched their lives, they showed up, and it made sense, But you had like all those.
But is it foreshadowing?
And so that leads to my next. So that kid is standing there by himself, and then post credits, there's not an end scene, there's not a mid credit scene, there's not an end credit scene.
Well, there's
only the sound.
There's that dedication to all the actors. Did you guys like that? Did you pay attention to it? Because if you watched, they showed
you're talking about before the full credits.
Yeah, they had like everybody's you had pictures, whatever.
Yeah, pictures from different movies.
The original Avengers are the only ones they signed. The actors signed, and I was like, that's a nice touch.
Yeah. But so there's no mid credit scene and end credit scene. There's just after the credits. There's kind of the hammering on metal sound that sounded like Tony building the suit in the cave in Iron Man 1.
So that's what I thought. Without going back and look at it, Iron Man 1, when he was actually forging the first suit, there was no robots manufacturing it. He was doing it by hand. That's what it sounds like.
That's what it sounds like to me.
Since he died, that's the tribute to him, right?
It could be a tribute to him. I mean,
for me, that's not foreshadowing. That's just a tribute.
It can't be. I don't think it's foreshadowing anything. I think it's a tribute to this is when we started. This is when he first became Iron Man, so this is when the entire MCU started with that hammering. This is how we're going to end it. So,
for me, that's it.
Right
It was not,
second, that was good.
It's not about the character so much as he was the first MCU film, Iron Man number 1.
So you're going to end it how he started.
He ended the whole thing.
Yeah.
His character arc is complete in the MCU, and that's just tribute. And if it was foreshadowing, it would be a video, because it's always been a video.
Yeah. Well, if they're going to foreshadow anything at all, you can always roll into
They did foreshadow,
stones
and we can
and
talk
shit.
about that next. They foreshadowed a couple
Yeah,
things,
they did.
but not in the end credits. To me, that was just
Right.
a tribute. I'm sure that was just a
The
tribute.
foreshadowing.
All right. Well, before we get into the foreshadowing, let me roll through your little comments here real quick. Okay, time travel, we did that. Teenage looking kid, you did that. The hammering on metal, you just did that. Future MCU. All right, we're gonna save the rest of the future of the MCU for another one because we're over 2 hours now.
So here's
longest episode, record breaking.
Yeah, here's the other thing. In terms of endings, so after the funeral, there's the scene where Cap dons the quantum suit, and his job is to go put the stones back. And Hulk is there.
I have a lot of problems with. I have a lot of issues with this.
Hulk is there. Some others are there, and they say, "Okay, you're going to go put the stones back." And they say, "Well, how long is this going to take?" They go, "For him, it might take
5 seconds." I think
months.
was the.
They're like, for him, it'll seem like
it'll
months
take
or
however
whatever,
long it takes.
however long
to
it takes.
do it.
For us, it'll take 5 seconds.
Yeah, and then he doesn't show up.
And then and they say he blows past his timestamp.
Yeah, and then they turn around and there's an old man sitting on a bench.
Yeah,
and it turns out to be Cap.
Yeah.
So then
Old
you
Cap,
get so now he's an old man. He's Steve Rogers, and he's wearing the same jacket he was wearing in the first Captain America, like same style jacket, like when he was frail.
Yeah, that's why I actually thought it was frail Steve. I thought it was frail Steve Rogers.
Yeah.
I didn't think it was old man Steve Rogers. I thought it was frail Steve.
Yeah, I thought it was like kid Steve Rogers.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it turned out to be old man Steve Rogers because now he is frail again.
Yeah.
Like to your point earlier that wasn't discussed, it was in our docs. They do the Bucky kind of nods at Sam and Sam goes over to him. The scene goes, okay, Sam goes over to him and Cap tells him like he's lived his life.
Mm-hmm.
I decided to go have some of that life that Tony kept telling me to try to have. And so basically he went back to the 40s after he dropped back all the Infinity Stones. Went back to the 40s, lived with Peggy Carter, married, whatever, and then now he's older and he showed back up to let them know he was okay and he was done. And he has a fresh, brand new Captain America shield. Wherever he got that, and you can speculate.
He could have just grabbed it at any point.
Yeah, he could have stopped at Tony at some point and said, "Hey, make me another shield. That's fine. I'm good with all that." And he hands it to Sam, and Sam looks at him, and he's like, "No, you can do it." And Sam says, "Thank you," and whatever. And it kind of
I'll work. He says it feels like somebody else's.
It feels like somebody else's, and he says,
and he says, "No, it's yours." And then he says, "I'll work hard to earn it," or that's why you're getting it, something like that.
Yeah. So it basically, Sam says, "I'm going to earn it," and Cap says, "That's why you've got it." And that's basically how the whole thing ends, right? With Sam as the new Cap, whatever. Yeah. Now your question was,
well, so I know that the Falcon becoming Captain America for a small stint happened in the comics. Yeah,
but not
so
until
did Bucky.
Bucky had been Captain America for probably 5 years or something.
It was about
there was a gap.
Yeah, it was about 2 to 3 years.
Whatever number. Yeah. There was a gap where Bucky was Captain America first, then Sam.
Right. So in the comics, to kind of jump all over your question, Paul's question in our Google Doc was, "What the hell makes Sam so much more worthy than Bucky in the movies, whatever?" It was. I think this is strictly a nod to the comics. This is in the comics. What happened was Civil War happened, and then Cap gets shot, and then when Cap gets shot, Bucky takes over as Cap.
But like in the 80s or 90s in the comics, Falcon takes over for a little while. There's scenes where
I don't remember that at all.
There's a character called U.S. Agent who gets the shield.
Yeah, I remember that.
Who gets Cap's shield
That's
because
when Cap becomes
quits.
Nomad.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so there are times where other people have been Captain America. The Falcon was one of them.
I don't remember
before
Falcon.
That happened.
Okay, I don't remember Falcon before that. I remember.
Falcon
I remember U.S. Agent. Then I remember Bucky took over after Civil War. This is more recently, right? Bucky took over because Cap got shot and killed. Then Cap comes back because time travel, wonky, whatever.
Because nobody ever dies.
Yeah, right. So Cap comes back, but then there is the super soldier serum gets extracted out of his body, and he becomes old Cap like he did in the movies just now, and he gives the shield to Sam. Sam takes over.
Yes.
They pretty much almost almost, like line for line, nailed it at that scene because he's an older Cap now. So I think really because within the MCU, you've had a few shots of Bucky with that shield, and it looked like some foreshadowing. Because there's a couple times within those, even like Winter Soldier and this and that, Bucky picks up the shield and everybody cheers in the audience because like, oh my god, he's gonna be Cap.
Yeah.
All the nerds lose their shit, and then it never really happens. Now, do I have a problem with like Bucky just kind of nodding at him? And like, yeah, I think if you're gonna do it, Bucky should have been the first one. But I get it. I mean, it's cool. You gotta do the nods to everything in the comics as much as you can, and that was kind of like cramming as much of the comic shit into the movies as possible. Is my version of it.
So I will say, Bucky in the movies is a different Bucky because he goes through something a little different. He comes back sort of mute, and then in Winter Soldier, I guess he a little bit picks up and becomes more of a character. But
yeah,
it's not like the way
he becomes the Wakanda's White Wolf, which is a completely different character in the comics. But what was cool because it explains how they fix him.
Yeah, but so Bucky took a different pathway in the movies than he did in the comics.
Yeah.
And I also think, personal opinion, but I think there's another factor of the gratuitous sort of doing things the way they're going to do things, and that Sam Wilson is probably the smartest person to hand it over to for the fans to enjoy the next storyline.
Sure.
Man, I'm being super gentle, but I hope you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, it's definitely. Again, we may be pandering a little bit.
Also, the actor they picked for Bucky, honestly, could you imagine him in multiple feature-length films? Just be honest.
Well,
No.
they never give him a chance. Yeah, they never give him a chance to be the clear-headed Bucky that you see in the comics. So
Yeah.
you never know. But
he has like 10 pages of dialogue in the entire run of movies.
Yeah.
That he's in.
Yeah.
So I don't think the choice is wrong.
All right. So now, okay. So let's go with they pandered a little bit to some of the audience, and they catered to comic book fans to kind of like
It
mesh
happens.
as much
It's
shit
not
in
a
as
pure
possible.
deviation.
Yeah.
It's just
it
a
happens.
big jump of events.
Okay,
Yeah.
it doesn't happen as far back as I thought. It happens like in 2012.
Right. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah. Because it happened.
I thought it happened early.
No,
I thought it happened like
after
in
Bucky.
the 80s or the 90s.
Yeah, it was Bucky first, and then Sam. So there's a whole But yeah, so you're on the same page as us. It's them trying to make as many nods to the comics as possible.
Yeah.
And so it was nice. It was a good nod. It was a nice nod to the comics.
Yeah.
And so,
So who had a? So in your opinion, sorry, Eric, who had the more satisfying ending? Like
Tony.
Tony,
Yeah. I mean,
did you have a
I
different
get.
idea?
Okay.
as a fan watching the movie, yeah, it's a more Tony's is definitely more heroic. Cap's, you're like, oh, good for you.
Yes, and
Tony's is heroic.
To
Yeah.
Eric's point before, Tony's makes more sense in a storytelling standpoint.
Yeah.
Cap's, if you recall, I called a long time ago. I said at some point I thought they were going to play in he's finally going to have his dance with Peggy. But I said way back when, I'm like, I don't know how you're going to play that in unless it's like in the Soul Stone, and that doesn't make sense. So the way they did it
Knowing
is
that,
amazing because I was like,
Yeah.
they have to, the way they've played up how much he longs for being back there with Peggy and whatever. They played that up a lot. So just from a storytelling standpoint, they're going to call back to that. And I was like, well, unless they go through the Soul Stone, because I figured he was going to die, sacrificing himself. Because my thing, like I said before, I thought it was going to be him and Tony fighting Thanos, and they were going to die together. So I was like, well, maybe they do something with the Soul Stone. But that kind of seems cheap. So this way, to me, because I thought they were going to go a cheap route with it, it was
knowing
a lot better.
that the Marvel Cinematic Universe goes on without an Iron Man and without this Iron Man and this Captain America. You know that both those characters have to end at some point. I sort of thought when Loki takes the Tesseract away and they have to go back separately without enough Pym particles to get back, I said, that's the sacrifice. There it is. Like, Tony and Cap have to go do this separate mission. This will end them, but as a result, they will get the stone that they need, and everybody else can move on. Because we talked about there's going to be a shared sacrifice. I thought that was it. But
Yeah, when they were without the print particles, I really thought someone was getting stuck behind.
yeah, I thought it was them.
They blew my mind repeatedly in this movie, like, or
But you end the
called
movie
my
and you're
bluff.
like, Tony's ending is what Tony's ending needed to be, and Cap's was kind of what Cap's was going to be.
Yeah, to me that's great because Cap is like the perfectly virtuous hero the whole time. It's the,
so Cap
as
is
I
the
said,
one
it's
that,
the reason he can
yeah.
wield the hammer. Right?
Yeah.
It's the reason he can do that. But for him, you know, his story takes this other little angle. Is like he's still perfectly virtuous,
Mm-hmm.
right? But he chose a woman and a love that he lost, and he's still perfectly virtuous, right? He doesn't have to be the sacrifice. To let Tony do that is the better answer to me. It's the less obvious, but the better answer to the end.
Yeah. So Tony's ending to end the series where it started was perfect. Cap's, like we said, it's the ending that you were like, I'm so glad you got that because that's what we've been waiting for.
Yeah, and so
So
he
now,
took a
to his
path that
point with the
affected
hammer,
nobody but him. Nobody but him
right?
lost anything or nothing happened in that interchange that he decided to make. Right? That
Yeah.
It was just him.
Now let's go back to that. And then we got to end this damn thing. All right, going back first, go all the way back to when he first wheels Mjolnir, and you get that pop in the theater, right? Everybody loses their shit, and then he repeatedly wields it throughout the movie, and then when he goes, okay, I'm going to bring the stones back, and he picks the fucking hammer up.
Yeah.
And you're like, yeah, no, he's Cap with the hammer now, so he's got the power of Thor, right? So he's going to go back, he's going to do all these things. So he's rolling around, dropping these things off. One, let's look at what he had to do. He's got to bring these stones back to where they were in the timeline. So, from a humor standpoint, one, he's apparently got to put one stone back inside a Tesseract. I don't know how the fuck he did that, but that's got to happen. The second one that's really awkward is apparently he's got to inject something back into Natalie Portman. So we'll leave that for another conversation. And so outside of those things, how the hell does he do all that? Cool. And then he goes on, he lives with Peggy Carter or whatever.
Yep.
You don't know what happens with Mjolnir there. What I would love to see is when these actors are like, I'd love to come back and do this and whatever. You have Disney Plus coming. What if they got enough money to throw Chris Evans' way to do at least one season or 2 seasons of a series of something of his adventures putting the Infinity Stones back just to see the shit he went through. Because there's only a few that are actually on Earth. And then you have to realize he has to go somewhere else.
Yeah.
And that's another note we'll talk about the next time, how Thanos managed to get his entire fucking ship through that time portal. But we'll talk about that later. That is another one of my gripes. Like, how the fuck did you do that? But okay, whatever. We'll just fast forward to this and it happened. We're good. I would like to see them do that. Right?
Yeah.
So then we come to the end of the movie. Stones are back. He's an old man, whatever. Questions at the end of the movie. I have 2 big ones.
Okay.
One, where the fuck is Loki?
Right.
Because he rolled out during the Battle of New York.
Yep.
Right. We know that there's a Loki series coming to Disney Plus. Mm-hmm. Is that what this is going to be? Because that would be cool. Because he's on his own timeline now.
It would be smart.
Yeah. Right?
It would be smart if they did that.
Take it from right that minute we dips.
When he dips.
Yeah.
Yep. 2, let's go back to the Black Widow discussion. Okay, why Gamora can come back, timeline, whatever. Cap, now, whenever you go to Vormir to get the Soul Stone, you have to make a sacrifice. What happens when you bring the stone back?
I don't know.
But Black Widow's got a movie coming out.
She does?
Yeah. Could it be? Maybe, possibly. When you bring the stone back, do you get something back? That's not been touched on at all.
Right. Because no one ever
Because
brings the stone back.
her movie could be a prequel.
Yeah.
It could be an alternate universe. It could be whatever. But what if when he brought that fucking stone back, he got her back? Because, they had a tight bond in the movies too. So what if when he brings it back... Also, side note, I want to see...
They played it
I want
up,
to see
in
the
fact.
discussion
It
with.
wasn't just a tight bond. They played it up in this movie. And I really
Well,
didn't
they
even
played it
think
up in
about
Winter
it
Soldier
until
where
you just
they
said
were
it.
flirting with each other in Winter Soldier. There was an almost romantic thing, and then
Well, she
they
kissed
squashed it.
And
Yeah.
she goes, "Was that your first kiss in 50 years?" And
He's like, no.
yeah,
But yeah. But they play it up a lot.
Yeah.
So there is a really close bond between the two of them. One, I want to see when he brings that damn stone back to Vormir, because I want to see what happens there. And then on a side note, just because I'm an asshole, I want to see his interaction with Red Skull.
right.
I want to see him hit him in the head with fucking Mjolnir
Yeah.
one time. Just bow! All right, you bastard.
Yeah.
So that's food for thought for the next episode. What's going on with Loki? Is that going to be in Disney Plus? And if Cap brought the Soul Stone back to Vormir, what does that mean for Black Widow?
Yeah.
Because that was a question I've heard numerous times, and Paul brought it up. So I thought about that in one of my pee breaks. And there you go. See,
Awesome.
take a piss, and you'll think of grand thoughts.
Right.
Every man's epic thoughts happen in the bathroom. So there you go. All right,
I have one more.
Of course he does.
Of course,
Go ahead.
I'm not even going to Captain Tangent it though. It's relevant to what's left. Who's the next Iron Man? So Rhodey in the comics dons the Iron Man persona twice.
Sure.
Once before Stark dies when he's being like a drunken, doesn't want to be Iron Man, and another time
Well,
after
they kind of did that in
Stark's
Iron Man
dead.
too, but not really.
I mean, will Cheadle? Will Don Cheadle be the next Iron Man? And it may be Phase 6, and who knows? But there's no planned movie
Could
for
be.
Iron Man.
Could be, or they could fast
It's
forward Morgan Stark, to be kind of like the Riri Williams that they just did recently, where
Right.
they did like a black female Iron Man.
Yeah.
Ironheart.
Right.
They could put her in that, and make her Ironheart. That would be cool too. Where at least
Yeah,
it would,
she is
it
the
would
later
make a little
Iron Man,
more.
though, isn't she? Isn't she later
There's
Iron Man in the comic books?
there's a black girl.
that's Ironheart. That's Ironheart. isn't it?
Ironheart. Yeah, I didn't read any of it. I just know of her.
Yeah, I don't really know.
Yeah, I just know of her. But I know her name was Riri Williams, and she was some black girl that was really, really smart. She made her own Iron Man suit, whatever, and she became Ironheart.
So why couldn't it be the kid that's in the mystery kid in the funeral?
Well, that's
It
what
could
I
be him,
wonder. Don Cheadle has name recognition.
It could be him,
He's done
yeah.
the War Machine thing,
Yeah.
and in the comics, at least for a short time, he adopts that Iron Man persona and does that thing. So why not?
Yeah.
Especially if you're gonna,
All right, so there you go. You know what?
change the
Pinhole
timeline
that.
to do
Next week we talk about
socio-political
where
stuff.
does the MCU go from here, and then over the week we'll get in the Google Doc and figure out what else we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
But next week we'll talk about where we go from here.
Love it.
Cool.
Very good.
All right. Holy shit. There you go. In response to an epic ending to a saga, we have our epic episode.
That's right.
2 hours and 22 minutes. I kind of hate you guys.
including 30 minutes we didn't record.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. We had a 3 hour. We had our own Endgame.
That's right.
All right. Well, guys, hit us up at whatifgeeks@gmail.com, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, yada, yada, whatever. Send me a smoke signal. All right. That's it. Good night, Tony.
Good night, Mom.
Good night.